Smile for me, even if you sad. Be good to me, even if you bad. Stay with me, even if you've got some place to be. Pray with me, even if you know believe. Smile for me, baby me please. Smile. I want to be the one where you die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Lie to me if the truth will break my heart too. Sing for me even though your voice they crackle. Dance with me even if you're dancing off the beat. Take a chance on me, don't you believe I'm worth the risk? Smile for me, baby me please. Smile. I want to be you are where you die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Will you fight for me? Even if now Buchanan, take a ride with me. Will you cause anybody to move Farrago? Oh baby, promise me the world because nothing is too much. You know that I want to be the one way you die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Do the things you think, say you never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby.
Hey, want to know how?
Smile for me, even if you sad. Be good to me, even if you bad. Stay with me, even if you've got some place to be. Pray with me, even if you know believe. Smile for me, baby me please. Smile. I want to be the one where you die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Lie to me if the truth will break my heart too. Sing for me even though your voice they crackle. Dance with me even if you're dancing off the beat. Take a chance on me, don't you believe I'm worth the risk? Smile for me, baby me please. Smile, I want to be you are where you fit die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Will you fight for me? Even if now Buchanan, take a ride with me. Will you cause anybody to move Ferrato? Oh baby, promise me the world because nothing is too much. You know that I want to be the one way to die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Da, 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 da. Do the things you think, say you no go do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby.
Hey, want to know how?
Smile for me, even if you saddle. Be good to me, even if you battle. Stay with me, even if you've got some place to be. Pray with me, even if you know believe. Smile for me, baby me please. Smile, I want to be the one where you fit die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. Lie to me if the truth will break my heart too. Sing for me even though your voice they crackle. Dance with me even if you're dancing off the beat. Take a chance on me, don't you believe I'm worth the risk? Smile for me, baby me please. Smile, I want to be you are where you fit die for. I want to be the one that makes you do the things you thought you'd never do. Let me be the one for you. I want to be your weakness, baby. for me. Even if now Kokano, take a ride with me. Go equals anybody to move Ferrato. Oh baby, promise me the world, because nothing is too much. You know that I want to be the one way to die for. I want to be the one that makes you do that. And the spirit of life calling Mamela, and a voice with the fear of a child answered, I am Mamela. Wait. There's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith. Oh, have faith. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything you see. Into the waters, into the truth. He lives in you. And a voice in the wind whispers.
Well, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Cyrus Gray, and welcome to today's edition of Election Central. We're just about to begin our pre-show, and as we promised, our pre-show today will be an update on election activities in Liberia. But our main show today will be about ports, the 4 seaports in Liberia, what they are today, what they were before, and what are the prospects for the ports' impact on the growth and development of the Liberian economy and the wealth and condition of the Liberian people. So on the hour, we'll be bringing a panel of 2, Sonny Yuma, who is into project financing. He's equity advisor for GDP investment, a capital investment group. He's going to be here to discuss some of the investment opportunities in our ports. We also have with us Amos Sibo. He's going to be calling us from Liberia. We hope his reception is good today. But Amos Sibo brings a wealth of experience about Liberia's port. So for the last the 12 years of Madam Sally's administration, he worked in her office, the program delivery unit, and was part of that team, the Port Sector Reform Secretariat, that actually was responsible for the concessioning of the free port of Monrovia to APM terminals, among other things. So we're going to be dealing with that on the hour, but for now, we'll begin our discussion on the current state and update of our election. I'd like to welcome my co-host, Alfonso. Alfonso, welcome. How are you?
Great, Cyrus. Thank you. Glad to see you as well. And,
how's your Sunday going?
It's going okay. The usual headache run around, but yeah, it's going good. I envy you. I see you have your coffee with you. I didn't have time to
Um,
make coffee, but we'll get through.
yeah, you guys some time. You can sneak out there and get yourself a cup.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought we should start up on the election update with um, a view of the most recent interview of the chair of the Elections Commission on the voters registration and all the issues around it. So let me see if I can pull that out of one of these links.
Hmm. Hmm.
Here you go. We might have it.
I'm going to read the details of the county after data synchronization. Determining the total
Is it clear?
65,000
It's a little low.
Bond County,
I think that the best we got.
247,747,
Yeah. Okay. We'll listen.
51,341. Then Bassa County, 159,553 registered. Then Piedmont County, 26,965 registered. Then Judea County, 64,202 registered. Then Hood County, 42,800. Local County, 178,037 registered voters. Martin County, 187,297 registered voters. Liberia County, 68,100 registered voters. Monrovia County, 918,577 registered voters. Nemba County, 308,808 registered voters. River G County, 37,990 registered voters. Riverside County, 40,306 registered voters. Simon County, 56,119 registered voters. Grand Prairie, 2,498,904 registered voters. 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, after the registration exercise and to the next the decertification process through the biometric central information system of the 2,498,904 registrants, the total number of 2,471,183 are reported as active registrants. 27,192 registrants were flagged as duplicates across the 15 counties, while 529 registrants were flagged as suspected underage across the 15 counties. These records are being investigated through the adjudication process. All eligible registrants will be removed and where warranted, their names will be referred to the Minister of Justice for classification. With respect to the ongoing
Well, I think that's
500
Yeah.
that's the story.
reporting the matter.
That's the story. Guess what? We tried to summarize most of that and to also discuss some of the trending issues around that. So let's see what we have here. We have about 121 days to elections. That means a little over 3 months
Yep.
to elections. And elections is set for October 10, 2023. So There are a few things that I noticed this week that I thought probably will make you talking points. If you
Yeah.
go on the Elections Commission website, look what you see. There are 46 registered political parties. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I heard the commissioner say that we had around 2.4 million registered
Register voters. Yeah.
voters. So 46, and that 46 is political parties. So now during the election, there may be a chance that independent candidates may also contest the
Emerge.
presidency. So
Yeah.
that means you're talking about more than likely almost 50 persons running to be president in a country where population is just about 5 million people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we have there are 5,911 voting precincts,
Yeah.
actual voting places, right?
Yeah.
And this brings something that I wanted your views on, Alfonso, or the former chairman of the Unity Party. I
Yeah.
think he left the party, but he has returned to support Ambassador Boakai. So they were at an event this week, and he made a couple of cautions or accusations.
Uh-huh.
First, he cautioned that the political parties should go and inspect these voting places. I don't know. I want to put my head around the logistical issue around that to go and inspect the voting places at this time, 3 months before the election. More than likely, those places are not set up
Mm-hmm.
yet
Mm-hmm.
for voting, because it's not as though they're offices that are specifically designed for voting. So it may be at a school or a town hall or Palava hall in the village, and you probably get to know that probably days before the election they will move in and get set up. So I don't see the logic of that other request at this time anyway, right? But they have
Mm-hmm.
5,911 precincts. One of the claims that have been made over and over is that because the elections laws require, or at least gives the right to the political parties, civil society groups, licensed media institutions to be at those places as observers.
Yeah.
So they should be there to observe the entire voting and the counting process.
Yeah.
With these political parties you got for the night, some of them that 1 man party
Mm-hmm.
or 100 man party, wrap your head around the ability to be able to monitor voting in 5,911 places.
So that definitely is a challenge. Obviously, we do not expect all 46 registered political parties and independent candidates, if there are any, to have representation at all of the 5,911 polling places. They might just decide to put observers at places that are strategic to them. Take for example, let's say there's a polling place in River G County, for example, where if you look at the election commission numbers, the number of registered voters there is probably 300 or 400 or 500, whatever the case may be. A certain political party looking at its, performance in River in that area might decide not to send a representative there if they do not have enough representatives sent around. So yes, so I don't expect that all of the political parties or candidates will be able to send representative all 5,911 polling places, although it's very important for that to happen. The other point I wanted to speak to is the issue you talk about, which is this person in the Unity Party saying that political parties should go and inspect or at least see these places that are being announced by the Election Commission as precincts or voting places. I agree with you. Those places have not yet been set up. There might be no activity going on there. It might be in a school building, a church building, a soccer pitch, etc. So nothing will be going on there related to voting at this point in time. However, I think going and making sure that these places even exist is not in as much as you might not be accomplishing a lot, but just making sure that these places exist will also kind of be a little important, because there have been elections. I'm not saying in Liberia, but there have been elections in the past where the election body might just set up a precinct in the sky, sort
All
of,
right.
lack of a better.
And numbers come from there.
And numbers come from there, and you don't even know that place exists. So yes, being able, journalists, civil society organization, even political parties, being able to identify these places, and before election, and being able to send people there during election is very important. For example, the election commission might say, um, the precinct in Gray district or in Gray will be at the Gray Community School, but they might change it on election day or 2 days before election day.
Yeah.
So you want to know where the Great Community School is located and all of that. So if they change it, now you have a basis to say something about it. Yeah.
One of the things that always crossed my mind when we're talking about this, the validation exercises,
Mhm.
is I think the whole activities around a party or contestant are canvassing people to vote and ensuring that the votes are counted is also a test of governance.
Yes.
Think about it. If you're going to be having voting done at 5,911 places, then the logic is that if you are really a political party,
Yep.
you should have membership in each of those places.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
So you
when
shouldn't be transporting people from Monrovia or from wherever to go to these places.
good point.
Exactly. So
So if you got your organization coordinated very well,
yeah.
maybe from the county coordination, then the district coordination, up to the lowest level, they will identify people from that very locale and say,
Yes.
look, your task, or two of you, your task would be to deal with this polling place here. Okay, go there, take a picture of it, tell us what's going on, what is state of it. We'll give you some basic training,
Yep.
It gave you probably a bonanza phone or $10 phone
Yeah.
with some data, so that
Mhm.
in fact on election day that will even come handy, so that you will be able to send real-time information back to your regional or central level. And
Exactly.
and if a party can do that successfully, that's a good sign that they can even govern. Because
That
that's part of the exercise that's requiring actually getting people together and getting work done. How you reach out. The temptation is usually because most of the parties run on the pocket of few individuals.
Mhm.
So on this kind of, you hear somebody say we got to go inspect these places, that's an opportunity for PDAM
Of
and all
course.
that, because that inspection team coming out of Monrovia,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
normal logic. In fact, how practical is it for them to even through the country to check
Yeah.
5,911 and you follow it up? They got a committee, checking
Yeah.
committee,
Yeah.
checking committee, getting ready to
Mhm.
go to
Yeah.
just for the dime. But I was just saying that this is a good thing for a political party to consider, that the real way to do it, politics is local.
Yes.
If you got people in those areas that are part of your party, then you engage them, so that would be their responsibility. I know
Absolutely.
it will go with some training though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the requirement actually, and that is why even the election law for a political party to register, they ask you to have membership from certain number of geographical locations and precincts and all of that. That is to encourage political parties to not just be based in one locality, but to be broad based, to include people on the local level. And I would say, if you have people on the local level, that's very beneficial to you, if even if you assign those people to those polling places, because again, they know their area, they know the region, they know how things are done there, and they are able to navigate more easily than the people you bring
You
from
bring
Monroe
some outside, correct?
or other places. So definitely.
Right. And that's also a part of canvassing. At least now you got people there, you got some votes there,
Yep.
you got vested interest there.
Exactly.
Okay, then there's the issue of 529 registrants that they suspect are underage. That's one good
Yep.
example we're looking at. I don't know this. I don't know this. But
Exactly.
what comes to my mind, Alfonso? How is that possible?
Yeah. You know, if this kid looked 15 or 16 or 17 and he somehow registers, I would say, well, his size. But look, he looks like a 6-year-old and he
Yeah.
has a voter registration card.
How is that possible?
That's
Who's doing this
yeah.
voters register? Are they aware that you have to be of a particular age?
Did he present? Did he present at a voter registration place to get registered, or was he? Somebody went and register him? Because if this person appears at any voter registration places, no rational normal human being should think he's 18 and above.
They got a picture on the ID,
Yeah,
so he had to be physically present
yeah,
at the voters registry, and there are 529 of such
yeah. That's
cases.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So what that means basically, we actually need this investigation needs to be of the election commission and their registration staff. That's where this investigation needs to be headed. What criteria were they looking at? What criteria were they using to register people? And are we sure that they even actually caught all of the underage
Correct.
restraints? That's another question.
Because catching the honor age will be actually a visual process. It's not like the biometrics
No.
where the system will pick up double
Yeah.
fingerprints. It's like
Yeah.
looking through the picture and say, they guy looking like
Yeah.
he's small. You're talking about 2 point some million pictures to
look through. Yeah. And did they present, like, what did people present when they went to register? Like, what was there to show? What the people have to present to show A, that they are citizens, B, that they live in the places they claim they live, C, that they have of voting age and therefore of registration age? Like, what did they present? That's the question the election commission needs to answer.
It brings us back to one of the discussion we had earlier about the absence of a unique identifier for the citizen, a national ID card. Because I think that person at the registration booth, and that is not one person. I think they're just using their discretion.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is a terrible discretion, though. I don't think this is.
The major, he just the mama boss of major.
Yeah. So the man comes to you and say, 18, you say, no, you don't know 18. You say, 18. You say, okay, all right, we'll register you.
The thing about it too, I don't think if there's an attempt to fraud in it, I don't think it is being concocted by this kid.
No, it's not this kid. No. First of all, he's underage. So he can't even, he can't say that I am manufactured, so let me go register so I can vote and cheat. No. So again, let me go to this situation on the O Road, where this young lady sent this text message to the chairman of the CDC, ruling government, saying, hey, we are here, send first-time voters to us. I mean, first time, I pick up some keywords there. First-time voters, send them to us. Who are the first-time voters? First-time voters are some of these very young people who had not voted, who had not turned 18 at the time, who might not be 18 now, and we can register them. So it had to have been a real concocted structure by people, not by these kids. So say bring the kids, bring the underage, bring the young people. We would just push them through. We'll register as many as we can register. And if they catch out of 5,000, if they catch 500, that's fine. The rest will go through.
So that's the first step. But you know that then they'll have to show up in October.
Yeah.
Again to vote.
Yeah.
So you got to go through that mail again. I mean, I don't know. Maybe by that time they say, but the guy must be qualified because he got a card, right?
He got a card. And then what's going to happen is, at that time, you can't stop him from voting. You can protest his vote. They can put in a provisional box and maybe protest it later. And who knows? It might be spilled milk. Who would have already?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Then we got the other category of people who voted
Mhm.
twice. My question is the registration. That means the system, the biometric system, is not automatic.
Yeah.
What do I mean? I mean, if the guy had registered already,
Yeah.
and he goes to another place to register. If the system is live and automatic, that is where you should be able to pick it up
Yes.
because that fingerprints is gonna come out again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the commissioner is saying that they discovered this during the deduplication process.
Hmm.
So I mean, they take all the numbers and then they filter it in the system now to determine whether there are two or three fingerprints, and then they pull out 27,192. I mean, how much dishonest people that you're talking about?
Hmm. 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 And this is, again, this raises a number of questions. As you correctly said, indicates that their system was not synchronized. So somebody could go and register in Margibi and then also go and register in Montserrat or Grand Basseur, but the system was unable to pick it up and flag and say, "Oh, this person, these fingerprints are in our system, so it must be the same person." So they didn't apparently they didn't have that system, which is dangerous, which is really frightening, because that's the purpose of biometrics,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's a unique identification, so it shouldn't be duplicated. And if I heard the chairperson correctly, she said they will investigate or they will review, and if they have evidence, told then they will turn the people over to the Justice Ministry for prosecution. So two questions here. A, are they removing these quote unquote duplicates already without going through the legal process of finding out whether they're
It
actual?
seemed that's what she did because
Yeah,
she called a new number. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So they've already removed these people. Are they are they publishing a list or writing letters to these people or placing calls to them, alerting them that it came out twice? Could this have all been a malfunction of their system? That the system
Yeah.
is, yeah. So there's a lot of questions to be asked of this whole process. I think they're doing a good job. I mean, digitizing the system, voting system, is a good thing, but you have to be prepared and you have to put systems in place to guide against fraud. And I'm
Okay.
not sure they did that sufficiently.
The good news is that they are going to publish at the precinct, I think 208, all
Yeah.
the names so that people can go and verify that they are registered and
Mhm.
and all that, right? That brings me to one of the claims that the caution that this pay guy from the former chairman pay from the United Party made, and I thought we probably should discuss it because it related to the same
Mhm.
voters roll. Last election, there was a big issue around this voters roll, and they went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court asked that they clean the voters roll.
Mhm.
So I think the idea of the biometrics is another step in that direction,
Mhm.
moving closer towards getting at least a unique identifier. Now, uh, Mr. Pei was telling the party that he doesn't have confidence in this BVR. And the
Mhm.
reason he does not have confidence is because the actual voting in October will not be electronic. So what does that mean? So if the identities have been captured and validated through fingerprints,
Mhm.
he's saying that the whole system should be electronic so that the guy goes to the machine and he casts his vote using the machine, and the machine will do the tabulation instead of going casting his vote using a paper ballot
Mhm.
that people will count after the process. What do you say to that?
Hmm. So I did not even know that the actual voting would not be electronic. So what's the purpose of biometric voter registration system? Is it only for identification purposes when
I,
people
th-
go
I
to
think that's the idea to capture the
yeah.
actual identity of people
So
to
to
clean
say
to clean the voters roll, right?
okay. So yeah, okay. So their goal was probably to just clean the voters roll, not to use the system for people to cast votes. I would think that using the system for people to cast votes would be a great process, because if you have people's fingerprints, then they can just go into the ballot booth, do their fingerprint, and maybe vote or whatever the case may be. So I didn't know that, it wasn't electronic. It does happen in a lot in other jurisdictions, I should say, that people use IDs and stuff, don't have fingerprints to identify themselves. Whatever identification means, assuming that this whole BVR system is just for identification purposes, so they can identify by themselves through different means, and then still go and vote by paper or by electronically. Although I think electronically would have been best, but they can still vote by paper. But that's the reason why I think political parties, civil society groups should be represented at polling places to make sure that people's identities are captured. I think, and that votes are counted at various precincts immediately following the close of polling. Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you know how the actual voting process is done, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So a guy walks there with his voter's card, which he
Yeah.
has obtained during this
Registration process.
registration process. Their names. There are no more than 500 persons at each voting place,
Yep.
and those 500 names are listed on the wall.
Yep.
So he comes, he looks and makes sure his name's on the wall. The guys verify his name in their document, and they
Hmm.
give him his package. He goes in the back, he casts his vote, and he comes and put it in the box, a transparent box that is sitting before the observer.
Hmm.
He puts it in the box. He gets painted with this
Thumb,
ink,
thumb ink. Yeah.
ink, and then he walks out.
Yeah.
When that exercise end at that voting place,
Hmm.
or the last person vote, the box is opened in front of everybody,
Hmm.
and then they do the tally,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then they show who voted where, and then I think the top two persons sign the tally sheet. They
Hmm.
take the original for the elections commission. They put the
Yep.
second one up on the wall, which is the result, and they
Yep.
give a copy, I think, to the top two persons based
Hmm.
on who won at that precinct, so that it allows for people to begin to capture that
Yeah.
number immediately
Hmm.
and start to share with their people. I think if the voters' roll is done properly,
Hmm.
and the observer protocol
Yep.
at the voting place in October is also standard and sound. I think more or less the process will be valid.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, those are the standard safeguards that should be put into place. And if those safeguards are in place, I remember very vividly 1997 election when we found the Liberia Election Observers Network, first local body to go around the country, over the country, independent of any political party to observe elections, and that was a problem. I and a group of other people, we posted people all around the country, but I and other people basically drove to certain parts of the country, starting from Monrovia. We drove through Robertsfield Highway and stopped at various polling places. We went to Firestone. We drove past and came towards Kakata, and then went into Bong and came back. And one of the major problems we observed were the political parties that were based in Monrovia and St. Olive did not have representation at the polling places. They did not. There was representation in Firestone of the UPP, but that was it. As we traveled around and went into Bunk, Salaye, whatever, I think we went as far as Otoro and came back. Those political parties were not represented at those places.
So having representation there is not mandatory, right?
No, it's not mandatory. No, election commission doesn't force you. They say you should have representation. You have a right to have representation, but if you don't send representative, they can't make you.
I mean, can you imagine if you are thinking about the the kind of team that get to register this guy,
Yeah, yeah.
and get him your voter's card. These are the same people who are going to be at the voting pool. So if you are not present there,
Yep.
Anything can happen.
It becomes a field day. I'll tell you a story right now if anything can happen. So on the way to RIA, there was this village, and we stopped there. And as we got down and went to the place, as you know, observers, monitors, we saw there was a group of peacekeeping ECOMOS soldiers there. The old people will come, they don't know how to read, they don't know whatever. And I observed more than once, basically the man handing the car to the Omar. All the Omar had to do was to just put it in the box.
Oh, he have been doing the
That was
thing for.
already finished. All she had to do like more than 2 times. So I said, "Hey, no, this cannot happen." And one of the guys who were with us, an American from the NED, he said, "No, no, no, fun. So don't get
Don't
involved.
get involved.
Yeah, don't get involved. Let's document it. Don't get actively involved. Don't want you to get hurt. Don't want anybody to get hurt. I know a lot of friends across Africa who got hurt doing these kinds of things. So let's not get involved with these guys. They're armed with this. Let's just document and move on." That is to support your point that if you're not there, there can be a field day. That can be a field day.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah. So hey, I think we cover most of the bases on what's happening. Now, is there anything else about the election you thought probably you would like to share?
Well, I mean, that's something we haven't given a lot of thought, so I don't know if we can delve into it that much. But I mean, just looking at the final numbers that the commission came up with, I think it would be interesting, if not now, at some point, if we start acting as numbers pundits and junkies, political junkies, and start thinking about with these numbers in these locations, who do we think has a path, a chance? For example, Monserrato, we look at the numbers in Monza, numbers in Lofa, numbers in Bong. Which of these candidates or political parties we think will fare well based upon where the numbers are located, where the registration are located, what they've done in the past, and in terms of what they're doing now? I think that would make a really good conversation at some point.
Well, maybe we could touch on Maserati a little bit about that. What do you think will make voters take in Maserati? Maserati carries the
Yeah.
largest number is about I think 32%
Yeah.
of the registered voters. The new number there is 891,201.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is an urban area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they are more attuned to the politics, governance issue,
Yeah.
and all that. You'll be wondering how would the Buia has been doing good in Maserati.
Mhm.
Would he do good this time around in view of everything? But we'll set a day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we can crunch the entire numbers and make our I would say our subjective analysis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Analysis. Yeah, you hear a whole lot of things being said, but they're all subjective. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're all subjective, definitely. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah. Although I would say, as you correctly said, Monrovia, Montserrato, especially Monrovia, it's an urban area. It has a mixture of everybody. So I don't think that any political party will have a runaway numbers as happened in the past. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we did some justice to the discussion, the update on election activities. So in a short while, we'll get to the main topic of our discussion today, which is the role of seaports in the Liberian economy. So let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
taking a look at it with an increased focus on the continent in light of trade and investment opportunities, what effect have you seen that pickup in the world trade dynamic have and place on ports authorities?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on Power Lunch. I think the first thing to observe about Africa as a whole is that for a number of years, Africa had lost touch with its economic reality, that it's an island continent. 72% of African countries are either coastal or the island states. So that's the first point. And it's the second largest landmass on Earth, meaning that if you take the total population of Africa of 1 billion people, the issue of trade and the context needs to be understood in that regard. Because the trade for Africa means that 91% of African trade with other nations is seaborne, and therefore the importance of African ports. The second observation to make, perhaps, is the one that says for many, many years, Africa was entangled in conflict and wars and all of those. But for the past 15, 20 years, we've seen stabilization of Africa politically, and therefore the emergence of the coastal nations in particular as lead nodal point for African development. And therefore trade in Africa comes on the back of those nations that are mostly coastal, and therefore coastal shipping and trade.
Let's take a look then at, capabilities. How are you rating African ports' capabilities right now from a logistics point of view? Are we keeping up in terms of pace and development on that front to cater to the demand that's naturally come with this shift in dynamic?
It is the largest challenge for Africa, because if you look at our trade efficiencies, for an example, because our logistics networks are not very efficient, they're not efficient at all in actual fact. For an example, Africa has got the largest landlocked countries anywhere on any continent, which then means that the bulk of African countries are dependent for the coastal-based one for logistics access to markets. But we've got one of the most inefficient systems. So what we've seen over the last maybe 10 years now is a lot of investments into ports, a lot of investments into management of such ports in terms of terminal management. But what is still lacking is the reorganization of the logistics themselves to make them very efficient, because they're not efficient at all.
Of course, that comes with integration of your various infrastructure capacities where, for example, rail and port go hand in hand in South Africa. We've seen the headlines coming to the fore already, how if we don't get that right, that integration and the development of that infrastructure, that we may well miss the next commodity boom.
Definitely. If you look at the AU's emphasis, even NEPAD, for an example, it's been on infrastructure. And there are two parts to that infrastructure. One will be energy, obviously, but the second biggest investment in Africa is to capacitate the continent, both to integrate and increase capacity. For an example, within the AU, South Africa has been given the north-south corridor to link the north to the south through railway lines. But in 2009, we signed a convention for Africa called the African Maritime Charter, which for the first time will allow Africa to integrate on the seaside and make sure that we've got a pendulum that goes up and down on the east and west of the continent.
Of course, we've been talking about infrastructure challenges in the traditional sense of infrastructure. There's also new risks that are affecting the ports and its ability to stimulate that trade and investment climate. It's the state of security infrastructure. Run us through the status on that front and actually how you handle something like that.
For quite a few years now, we've been arguing this point that what you take for granted on other continents, for example, security and safety, are strategic issues when it comes to the African continent. Because the wastage in Africa comes out of having a continent that is not safe and secure, which means every 15, 20 years, you have to rebuild infrastructure in Africa. You look at Ivory Coast, you look at the rollout of uprisings on the north of the continent. So on the maritime side, we've been working together with the International Maritime Organization to strengthen security. As SAMSA in particular, what we've done is we've installed technologies like your long-range identification and tracking of ships capabilities. We are now into satellite technologies for tracking movements of ships out at sea.
Yeah, that was Twisi Mokili. Twisi was formerly the CEO of the South African Maritime Authority. Pretty smart guy. He's a top leader in port and shipping management. I just thought to bring that so we have a context of
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
value of what a port infrastructure is. But in our particular case in Liberia, we have one of the oldest seaport,
Mm-hmm.
you may say. So the free port of Monrovia, which is our main port, was dedicated around 1948. 1948, by then a young U.S. Secretary of State, a guy called Edwards Stettinius.
Mm-hmm.
It will interest you to know that this guy has all his fingerprints on Liberia, even though he died in 1949, right? So when Stettinius flew to Liberia to dedicate the port as part of the uh, agreement that the Liberian government has signed on to the U.S. government, which was security in nature, he said to President Totman, he said, for everything I see in Liberia, Liberians should not be poor.
Yep. Yeah.
So he asked Totman to give him one concession that I will open a company, give me an authority to create wealth in Liberia. So Totman gave him that authority and he created something called the Liberia Company. And his purpose was to attract big American business to Liberia. So part of that was the creation of the Liberian Maritime Program. So Satinas engineered the creation of the maritime program. Basically, it was a product of accident. Today, in the maritime sector, Liberia and Panama and the Marshall Islands are referred to as flags of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why?
No.
So most of the ships that ply in the national sea, and shipping is big, big business, right?
Yep.
Most of these ships are owned by Europeans. In fact, the Greeks are the largest owners of ships,
Mm-hmm.
but they are registered in poor countries. So what is registered? Every ship by tradition is required to have a nationality because the ship is trading on international sea and in multiple countries. If there are issues surrounding this ship that has to be adjudicated, there has to be one single law that is used to adjudicate that. Because, for example, an 18,000 TEU container ship may be carrying cargo that belong to 5,000, 6,000 people.
Yeah.
The crew on the ship could be multinationals from different countries. The owner of the ship from different countries. All the different contractors from different countries. So if there's issues surrounding that ship that needs to be resolved, everybody will want it to be done in the scope of their own law.
Yeah.
So in order to make that easy, the ship itself is given the nationality. But here's the deal. In most of the Western countries, because of the lucrative nature of shipping job, they make it only their citizens can work on their ships. So an American flagship, for example, the captain could easily make $1 million a year. Because the labor unions are strong. They're protecting
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
these people and the jobs are kept for their citizens. Because of that, the crew cost on the ship is the second highest cost for the owner. After fuel, after bunker, is the crew cost. So how do you save in that era? If you are competing in a global market with another vessel, all you have to do is go and register your ship in a country like Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're registered with Liberia, you're free to go to the Philippines and hire an equally qualified crew for a nickel on a dollar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you save significantly in terms of your
Your
cost.
labor cost. Yeah.
So most times these countries that are called the flags of convenience, they just take fees. Like most African we do it for our iron ore, we do it for they just take
Mm-hmm.
fees and they attach their flag to you. And in most cases, in the case of Liberia, we created Stettinius and his crew created an animal that will never change. Because the role of regulating that vessel, which now is a citizen of Liberia, is the role of the government.
Yep.
that has the flag. But in 1940, 47, 48, when he made his proposal to Tottenham, we didn't have that capacity. So they said, but no, don't worry about that. What we do, we'll create a vehicle. We'll create the Liberian Maritime Program under the name of, in fact, the first maritime program was called International Registry Incorporated, IRI. And that team will sit in Western Virginia, and they will regulate the ship, because that country whose flag the ship flies is responsible to ensure that all the international laws are applied on that vessel, all the safety issues, the various inspections, the licensing of the crew. The crew that's on those ships, they carry Liberian traveling documents. You know that?
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, they got a Liberian maritime passport that's issued to them. So all this lucrative business is off the Liberian coast. Because we are a big maritime flag, and those guys have to be able to regulate the ships all over the world. So they have offices in all the major shipping capitals: Hong Kong, Singapore, Belgium, Brussels, Antwerp. Those offices are manned by foreigners too. I'm trying to put your head around the amount of jobs we got hanging.
Yeah, hanging in the balance. Actually, not hanging, being taken to other people.
And they are now forcing it from us.
Yeah.
What we have not done is position ourselves to take the job. So I went to a maritime school, for example. If you go in Liberia now, you got more than 20 young maritime professionals who went to this maritime school in Europe, paid for by European governments and ship owners, so that they will be having expertise in the Liberian maritime system. 90% of these guys do not work in the maritime sector. They are not being hired in the maritime sector. But I just give you an idea. So Stetinus created the maritime program. He brought another company we're going to talk about shortly when we talk about Sino, an American guy by the name of Robert Litulik, who invented the yellow machines, the bulldozer, turning pole, and stuff. He brought this guy to Liberia in 1958. His brother-in-law, his sister was married to one Terry Tripp. Tripp is the pioneer in aviation in America, Pan America. He brought Ron Terry Tripp to come and take over that company and set Pan America at Robertson International Airport, the first international link for Pan America in Africa. Okay, so let's start there. I was just trying to tell you where the port started from. Over time now, we have 4 ports: the Free Port of Monrovia, the Port of Buchanan, Port of Greenville, and the Port of Harper. We'll talk about each of these ports one by one and look at the opportunities, or look at what they're doing now and look at what opportunities are there. So let's start there, right? So this is a broad view of the Free Port of Monrovia. At some point, I'd like us to go to Google Earth. Maybe we'll look at it better. Let's see if we can do that. Google Earth. So the Free Port of Monrovia, personally, it has multiple users, right?
Yeah.
If you look at that picture, Kinley, I'm trying to pull Google Earth. It will give us a better view of the topographic. Okay, let's work with this. We'll get a break and we'll try to see if we can get that. But that's an air view of the Free Port of Monrovia, a part of it. The main port there, if you look at that picture, Kinley, you see somewhere near the water, you see Free Port of Monrovia crossing over there.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
There's a 600-meter key. There are ships right there, one from one ship to the other. The 600-meter key, which is just a small part of the port where you see those ships line up. And that key is concession to APM Terminus. So APM Terminal is a port operator, like, everywhere you go, every port you go in the world, most big ports, they will have a small terminal there, mainly to take care of their ships, because they're also part of the shipping line, the Maersk line. But we concession that place to them so that they handle all our containers, They handle all the brick bulk like rice, cars coming into the port and stuff like that. So the other things like iron ore, logs, petroleum product, they are not part of that concession agreement. So they're spaces all over the port for that. So apart from that concession, I mean that concession area for APMT, the port leases out warehouses. So if you look in there, you will see a bunch of warehouses here and there. I mean, the company is doing different things in different areas of warehousing. And we'll talk about with that in detail. So let move on to, I'm just covering a summary, then we'll do detail of each port. Our next port is the port of Buchanan, right?
Yeah.
The port of Buchanan is twofold. The port has the iron ore terminal that was built by Lamco, is now concession to ArcelorMittal. So if you look in the right side of that picture, right under there, you will see an iron ore frigate there, probably being loaded, right?
Yeah.
The further left side is the commercial terminal that is run by the MPA. But there's not much that is happening there right now. Before the war, all those green fields you see over there were log yards. Major logging companies hauled their logs there, and the port was a major export port for logs. It's way below capacity right now, so we rely mostly on ArcelorMittal. And even that we rely on ArcelorMittal using the port, there are lots of benefits of the port that would not accrue, or because of something that happened at the free port of Monrovia. And we talk about that. Then our next port is the port of Greenville in Sino. The air view of the port of Greenville, real nice. That you see on the left side, that the Sino River comes right into that basin, and that curvature there is the port. It's a natural harbor. Again, not much is going on there right now because it was also a major logging port, and most of the big logging operations, as a result of the war, have ceased. Then you look on the right side there, that vessel I think is still there. It's a wreck sitting right there where the guy's passing around with it, That wreck itself is money, a lot of steel. Right? But that maybe we're trying to build some coral reef with it or whatever. I don't know. Then our southernmost port is in Harper. Again, a natural port. You see that basin was built down there. It was also used for logs and for feeder vessels bringing in supplies along the coast from Monrovia. But there's not much happening there. The last I was there in 2021, there was one vessel. Some Chinese guys had a vessel there, but I think that vessel later on sank along the Liberian coast not too long ago. 2021 or early 22, it sank somewhere off my shore where a lot of people died. But that's the port of Greenville. Now, in between Greenville and Sino, you have between Harper and Greenville, you have concessions there. You have the Golden Vivarium that is processing oil palm.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But they except they've changed that because I heard they were building a mill in Greenville, but except they changed that, they were trucking their palm nuts bunches to Ivory Coast.
Wow.
To get processed and exported out of Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
So I thought to look at other opportunities for ports that we have not explored. This is says along the Sesto River, the river says Sesto City. In the World War II era, the Germans had companies here. If you go there, you still see the broken down warehouses, structure all in the butchers there. So they were using this place as a port. There is major fishing business going on there, but the guys who are doing it are Ghanaians who come there with I'll tell you the experience I had that will blow your mind. There's this guy who is senator now, Wellington Jevon Smith.
Yeah.
He was superintendent there at the time, and his brother, the late George Samuel Jevon Smith, was my close buddy. So he took me down there a couple of years back to show me the place so that we could look for investment opportunities. And we are walking around, and somebody came to them and said, "Oh, look, the Ecomog people had a station there, the peacekeepers. So the Ecomog people want to see you because there's a dispute." So I walked with them there. It happens that the people in Sasto City were stopping the guys who came to fish from fishing until they paid some money.
Yeah.
So I took interest. Who's this guy? They're all Ghanaians. So seasonally, the Ghanaians come there and they pay some money to the people, and they are the one who fish the water.
Yeah.
And they just gave the locals some bunny and
A
those.
little bit of money and fish, and that's it.
So they're arguing that in fact whatever money the guys gave, didn't cross to everybody who was supposed to get it. After all, I seen the Smith brothers. I said, I don't understand. I said, but why do people here themselves are not
doing the fishing?
And they're paying these people who come, people paying them come here fish and take their fish away. I said, man, that's just how it is. Because I was thinking on the possibility of getting some fishing boats and or getting motors to bring to them. The guys in Miami get to put a motor, they will sell it to the
Ghanaian people.
To the Ghanaian people. Yeah. So one place we don't have a port there right now. Another place there is Rubber Sports. Rubber Sports, there's this story about this Liberian guy who ended up at a university in the States and influenced a university called Taylor's University. You hear about a guy called Samuel Morris. It's a crew kid who ran from his crew village and eventually came to America. And the university is in Indiana is built around that kid's idea. You go there, his monument and everything is there. If you're reading about him, the ship that he boarded to leave Liberia, he's boarded out of the port of Rubber Sports. He was a Rubber Sport hanging around, and the ship needed him to work on board. So this is around 1899. So there was a port here. Of late, what you hear about Rubber Sport is that it's a beautiful place for surfing. So people come from around the world to do surfing there. Or that put opportunities there, especially if you think about concessions that have been awarded to people in the Bomi and Cape Mount area. They have easy proximity to this
to that
port, the waterfront, than to Monrovia. Then we have a place called Bafo Bay. I will run a small tape on Bafo Bay right after the break, so you see what happened there. I told you about this guy Robert Lutole, who came to Liberia as part of this Liberian company initiative to help bring wealth to Liberia. So these guys came with their first ship from the Mississippi coast, the Mississippi River, and brought in the first sets of yellow equipment, probably to West Africa, to Bafo Bay. And they set up shop there. That's a short video. I'll pull it out and we can share and we'll share it. Okay. What is happening at Bafo Bay right now? Nothing.
Right? Yeah. Of course.
Then I thought to bring this picture. Now we'll get a proper Google Earth of it. This is a port that is barely 60 miles from Cape Palmas in what used to be Liberian territory, San Pedro. Now, if you look at that port, you can see that it's a real port. I mean, there are ships here at different areas, operations going on, creating a whole lot of value for that city that is just 60 miles. It's at a shorter distance from Cape Palmas than Grand Crew. So even some of our businesses, our concessions, like I talk about GVL, this is where they take their palm to process and export. There's a company called Kabbalah Rubber. Also, we take their rubber there to export. In fact, some friends of mine a few years ago were running a small feeder vessel. And when they go down to Cape Palmas, instead of coming back to Monrovia, they take the contract to haul Kabbalah Rubber to San Pedro. And the ship had a leak. You imagine Liberians always do something some kind of way. So the ship is taking water, but they have pump in the ship, pulling the water out as they go. Right? So they get to San Pedro one day, and because the port were congested, they told them they had to wait outside in the high sea. For time when they have space to bring them in. So they were down there struggling with that water on and off until the ship got overwhelmed and the ship sank right off San Pedro, and even one of the guys died in the ship.
Oh man!
But they had gone to carry Kabbalah Rubber products over there. so that they can put it on a bigger vessel to ship. This is the full length of Liberian coast. It's 350 miles from from Cape Mount to Cape Palmas.
Bahamas.
Yeah, and then we have maritime acreage that is larger than our land. Let me say
Yep.
that again. We have
7,000. Yeah.
43,000 square miles of land, right?
Yep.
But we have 70,000 nautical miles of ocean acreage. What that means, under international law, you see from the tip, the yellow tip of Cape Mount, and then Cape Palmas into the sea, up to 200 miles is called our exclusive economic zone. So what that means is that all the resources in that 70,000 nautical miles belong to us to exploit, whether seafood, whether you have crude oil, or what kind of mineral wealth is there. Even though international vessels have a free right of passage, they don't have to seek our permission to pass through there, but they can now exploit the resources there. Are we exploiting it? Do we have the means to even monitor it?
Yeah.
We're going to get into the crust of this discussion when we come back. So let's take a short break so I can work on some of the presentations that we ought to pull back, and then we can get into some substance. Okay.
And that will give me time to grab my coffee.
Grab a cup of grab a cup of coffee. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have a show and discuss some of these details port by port. We'll come back in a bit. Okay, here we go. Fanso, you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Good. So let's with the benefit of Google Earth, let's get into some details. Here is the free port of Monrovia.
Yep.
Like I was trying to capture in the earlier image right here. You can see the movement of the coast. I'll pull it up. Right here is the APM terminal concession, where you see those three ships.
Yep.
So why am I saying this? So the APM terminal deal is simple. Well, they handle these few categories of cargo, and then we get royalties from it. We get royalty per container. I think initially it was $43. We get royalty from brick bulk, things like rice and stuff. We get I think $1.68 a ton, and then we get royalty from marine services. What is marine services? Which is really the cash cow, right? You see, in the basin there, the water from where those ships are parked, and the larger area of the basin, you see an arc there,
Yeah. Yeah.
two walls.
Yeah.
Inside that basin, the port goes and bring vessels from outside using the tugboat and the pilot boat and bring them and moor them in the along the pier for them to offload or load.
Mm-hmm.
And they charge for that. And it could be anywhere from $1,500 per move to $10,000 per move based on the size of the ship. So a real big vessel could be paying $6,000 to come in, to be brought in, $6,000 to be taken out, and then they pay certain fees as they are attached to the pier while they're loading or offloading. You got what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
So that's a major cash cow. In the concession, we awarded that work to APM terminals against the opposition of many people, because it didn't make sense. There's nowhere in the world where a private company does that. Because you must remember now, APM Terminal is the shipping arm of one of the shipping companies that also comes to that port. So just common sense will say that they could put their vessels at an advantage
An
against other
advantage. Yep.
vessels in terms
Yep.
of how early they can bring them in, how early they can take them out. Also, the next at the north tip of that last ship is the LMC pier. So if we are awarded the LMC pier, it was for the company that was mining iron ore in Bon Mines. So normally the concession agreement will include the use of that pier to export the iron ore. So if we're awarding iron ore to these people, it's APMT who will do the marine services and make that cash cow. If you go further up, there's another pier here, which is the BMC pier, designed for Bon Mining Company.
Uh-huh.
So that has been given to the Chinese, the China New York, even though I understand that they started the concession and then they shut it down again. But all these, then along the inner circle of the port, all these waterfront are literally unutilized. Unutilized.
Mm-hmm.
If you come further here, this is the free zone that was built by Tolba that encouraged companies to open factories here and produce without paying taxes if they are exporting them.
Mm-hmm.
That facility was taken over by the UN peacekeeper. You see the Ummel Star base. There are a bunch of warehouses here and all that. They're still unoccupied. They haven't been put into any commercial use. In fact, during the during the COVID crisis, they took one of the buildings there as a isolation center.
Yeah.
And will bring people and hold them out there for them to get well. In addition, the port property is 500 acres of land. They are using on the average 120 acres. So the port property runs from somewhere here, Baba Motors, around here, where you have LPRC, all the way on to the Bon Mines Bridge. Bon Mines Bridge is just before you get to Point 4.
Mm-hmm.
So all the properties or all the land towards the ocean side belongs to the National Port Authority. The last I checked when I was consulting for the port, most people on those land were squatters. There was no standardized lease agreement with them at all. because succeeding leaders of the MPA looked at the port only in terms of what's
Yep.
happening at the waterfront.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Only in terms of what's happening at the waterfront. There are a couple of interesting things that are happening here. I will suspend this stuff so we can go into the 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 specifics of some of the players in the port. In the port right now, you have some companies, like for example, there's a company called Connex, owned by Sheriff Abdallah. They've been into the import-export business, rice, cement, other things. But what they set up a modular oil refinery. So they're in the process of producing cooking oil, kerosene. I think also refining some crude oil to get gasoline and diesel, where they will be able to export to Sierra Leone and those places that are in need, and also supply the local market, which is really ingenious. Except that I understand those facilities are set right in the port, without consideration for
Yeah.
environmental
Pollution and
pollution.
the risks of fire and all of that.
Correct. Yeah, you put in all the other infrastructure at risk. So they also have they have been importing cement. Traditionally Cementco had a monopoly, but I think somewhere between Ellen time and Weir time that monopoly has been broken. So Abdallah, through another company he has called, I think is Futa, importing cement, and I hear they're also processing cement and bagging them. There's this Indian guy, Sati Brothers. He's producing cement inside the port. And why am I saying all this? Because these are major players in the port who, if you can leverage the use of the port facility and even develop more warehouses smartly, the port should be making serious money. Talking about the port, when the port was concessioned, the agreement allowed for all other services in the port, apart from the APMT, all other services were going to be outsourced. And the port actual employees will not exceed more than 250 persons. I have access to that document. Today, the port has about 3,000 employees. Some people just standing there, see these people. Yeah, they said
they're on the party roster, so they got
they're harmonized. Everybody just sitting there. Some people making $50, $75, whatever. Even that also undermines the port international security status, because the port itself is a critical security installation. If you go to ports around the world, you don't see people loitering around.
No.
Even to enter the port, you are here in the States, there's something called TWIC card, TWIC, that you have to have all your stuff there. I mean, everybody in that port is a new entity. It's not walking, because the port is vulnerable. You could throw anything in a container, it can literally destroy the economy of the area where the port is. So one of the things we had expected Amos Sibo from Liberia. I don't know if next break I would call him, but we need him here. He was one of those from the president office who presided over the concessionaire of APM terminus. And in hindsight, I thought it would be good to discuss some of the things that happen.
Considerations,
the whys.
Yeah.
One of the critical issues, and I will run a tape here from the managing director then. During the concessionaire, can you imagine if you are concessionaire of facility? And concessionaire, I mean, you're privatizing a public institution.
Yeah.
Normally, the leader of that exercise are the managers and owners of that installation. So you highly see a case where, say, the managing director of the port authority is opposing the privatization of the port. In the public space, right? And I think this happened for a number of reasons. one of which we're going to discuss now that has undermined the productivity of the port. I say productivity in terms of profit sharing
Mhm.
and the involvement of Liberia in the wealth creation. The port is operating well at a very low scale, but the major beneficiary of that profitability is the concessionaire
Yeah,
because of the way the concession was
it was
designed,
structured. Yeah. Mhm.
right? That's what leaves people with suspicion that maybe Ellen and people around her were vested on the side of the concessionaire. I really would like Amos to be here to speak to that. I know he will explain more about it, but I really would have loved that back and forth. I will call him. I really think we should take a short break again, Alfonso, or
Okay.
take it on, take it on.
Yeah.
You take it on. Let me go in the back and try to sort one of those things out. Yeah, good.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, no, no. Totally agree. I mean, it's fascinating everything you just explained, and how it even is continuing to happen. How we have such an important resource in the country, and unfortunately, it's not benefiting the people of the country. Um, Before this show, and maybe I'll hold this piece and just talk extemporaneously until Amos comes back. But the port is an important resource everywhere in the world. It contributes to the economy of the country very significantly in terms of bringing revenue into the economy. It contributes significantly towards employment. I mean, as Gray was just talking about, you can hire a lot of Liberian citizens on those vessels, that are flying the Liberian flags, etc. And I don't think it takes much to change those agreements and the trajectory of those agreements. All we have to do is the willpower of the leadership, the willpower of the government, the willpower of the managers of those institutions to say, hey, look, we have our own people who we think should be hired on these vessels and in these concessions to carry on the tax, because that's how you create a middle class. As I was reading in preparation for this discussion today, I read a paper that says that if ports in Africa, including Liberia, will invest in equipment, in expansion, and in hiring their citizens, that by 2025, it's not 50 years from now, by 2025, we'll create a middle income status. We'll attain middle income status, meaning we will create a significant middle class in our countries. And what does a middle class mean? A group of people who have money, who have resources, who have the means to spend, to send their children to school, to access education, and also to invest in business, which in turn creates more job and more economic opportunities. Um, Development. How do ports to contribute to the development? Ports, of course, we all know we use our ports to import goods into the country. We bring cement, we bring other things that are not produced into the country, to utilize those things to build the infrastructure that we want to build for our society. So the ports are very important in terms of development. They're also very important in terms of economic development, because what do? They give citizens the opportunity to ship locally produced materials, and that enhances commerce and trade. So, for example, we are an agrarian country. We have a lot of resources, agricultural. Hopefully, we can develop our agricultural capacity. We can use the ports to ship our agricultural produce and sell it to other countries, and that's an important source of revenue. It would be an important source of revenue actually for our farmers, for our people. There will be people working on the farms. There will be people working on shipping these things to create enormous jobs that will definitely enhance the economy. Every day we cry and say our economy is poor, our economy is not working, we don't have enough money to invest in these things, but we do very little to expand the economy. A lot of times our leaders just focus basically on how much money we can collect from the Lebanese people, how much money we can collect from APM terminal. these fees that the people pay to us, instead of actually investing and expanding the pie. I would say expand the tax pie, expand the revenue pie. That's the way to do it. It's not just to impose more cost on people who shipping the little things into the country, or more cost on people who are managing these little services that we have in the country. It's making sure that we expand the revenue base. And the way we expand the revenue base is to make sure we get more people investing, put money in people's hands so they can start new businesses, expand the pie, empower Liberians so they can, start their own businesses as well. And that's how we can go to creating um, a middle class. Transportation hubs. Ports are important transportation hubs all around the country. Uh, Why is it, for example, I mean, we could reel it to come from Greenville to Harper. We could that could be another channel of transportation, not only of goods and services, but also of people. Um, it's my understanding that currently, the later ships going from Monrovia to Harper and Greenville, etc., occasionally take people in goods and services. We can expand on those things. So not just in terms of goods, but we can bring people. Our roads are terrible. It's going to take us a while to fix all of those roads. How about we look at other means of transportation in the interim as we develop other channels and other opportunities. um Security. Security. Ports, as Cyrus was talking about, ports are important security infrastructure. You know, that's it's your entryway to the world, just as your airport is and everything. People come, they bring their vessels, they ship in our waters, they take the fish, they take what anybody can come and really just dump something on it. So it's an important security infrastructure. As Cyrus was saying, we let anybody in. We don't even have a what how they call it, coast guide that will monitor our coast to see who's coming in, who's stealing our resources, or who's even coming to do nefarious activities other than fishing and all of those things. So yeah, um, ports are really, really, really important. And that Cyrus is back. I think we should have
Yep,
this
yep.
this
So, but
one.
really, really, really
Yeah,
good overview. Really
yeah,
good
yeah.
overview. I'll tell you what, like, I want to also go into one of the controversies around the APM terminal that still has not been resolved, and that
Yeah.
is backstabbing us from an economic perspective. And this is not to talk down APMT, because in their own way, the port that we had before 2009 was literally falling into the sea.
Hmm.
And the government at the time thought that was the best thing to do, to bring private capital
Yeah.
to build the pier again. And in exchange for that, give them 25 years to run the port and recuperate their investment and profit, right? But those three general areas that we awarded to APMT, one of the areas is marine services. So marine services is basically the operation of the tugboats, the pilot boats, to bring vessels in the basin and to take them out safely.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that is overseen by a harbor master. So we kept the harbor master position, but we gave the marine services and the cash that come with it
To, to
to
the APMT. Yeah.
what we're getting out of it. To tell you that the guys who negotiated the deal were really not okram with this kind of business. So when I asked, because I have been brought in by the port as a consultant to advise them on this exercise. So I asked the here's the thing. Even the structure of the negotiation was faulty from our side, because the negotiation was being led by something called the Interministerial Concession Committee of the government of Liberia, made out of all the big ministers, assisted by a group in the president's office called the Program Delivery Unit. Fairly young, smart guys, but
Hmm.
now with specialized knowledge about this issue of
Wow.
concessions.
Yeah.
So this IMCC and the PDU were actually the driver behind all the concession agreements in Ellen's period. So you know the story about the concessions, how
Hmm.
eventually they were judged in most cases not to be in the best interest of the Liberian people. It was not that the concessionaires were not doing what they were supposed to do, but the deal that was signed, they were lane-sided. So I will use the port for an example. When I got in to work with the port team, it was the first time the port authority has been brought into the IMCC to participate in these discussions. After they have awarded the concession already to APMT, they were negotiating terms. Then they bring the port authority. So I asked the guy who was the head of the National Investment Commission, then Richard Talbot. I said, how do you negotiate for the privatization of the port without having the port people involved in it from the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
He said, oh no, that's the rule. The rule is that if you are concessioning a government entity, the people who run that entity should not be involved in the making of the sausage. I said, I couldn't get away. I said, why? Why is
Mm-hmm.
that? He said, because we don't want them to bring their bias to the discussion. Listen to that, Apostle.
Yeah.
Think about it. The port belongs to the government. The people who run the port are the people who are knowledgeable about the port. If you're going to privatize the port, the IMCC, the Interministerial Concession Committee, and the PDU are not separate from the Port Authority.
No.
They should be facilitating the successful negotiation of the privatization of the port. You can't say, oh no, we don't want the MPA to be part of it because there will be bias. Bias, they're supposed to be biased.
So bias towards whom, and why shouldn't there be bias? Why shouldn't the interministerial committee be biased?
Be biased.
Liberia? Why shouldn't the PDU be biased towards Liberia? That's what should be happening. We should be biased.
So that was the climate that informed these negotiations. So you can see already it was set up on the back foot. So these three groups that were supposed to be working in concert.
Yeah.
The MPA brings the expertise because they have knowledge about the port. The PDU was the final decision-making group made out of the big ministers of government. They needed to get the MPA to get them to understand what all the nuances were, but they kept the MPA out. They hired a company from Holland called Transport Business Solutions, something like that, TMBC. One old man and his son, right? So I met them there, and apparently they drove the entire terms of the concession, which were really lean-sided towards the MPA, and I'll explain that, right? So marine services, if you take marine services and you award it to a private operator of the port, that same marine service department is responsible to provide marine services in the port of Buchanan, the port of Greenville, in the port of Harper.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the heart of that organization and you fracture it, you literally destroy marine services for those other ports too.
And those other local ports, exactly.
And you're not thinking on that, but that what have really happened. So in Buchanan, for example, which we will talk about a little bit, you have ArcelorMittal there. They bring in these huge ships to take the iron ore and taking them out. Marine services there is a business for the MPA to bring these ports in to take them out. But because you kill marine services at the MPA in Monrovia, Freeport, so ArcelorMittal hires APM Terminal to go to Buchanan to make that money, to make that money too, right? Not only that they gave marine services to APM Terminal, but they left the responsibility to dredge the port to the MPA.
Wow.
So you got a football field, right?
Yeah.
You say, my man, y'all made the money from the football field, but we will call it
we'll maintain it. We will make sure the grass is water. We'll plant the water. We'll do everything. We'll change the goalposts. But you can play the games. You can bring teams here and make the money.
Make the money.
Yeah.
Right?
And then Jack gave us something at the end.
That's something I already talk about. How much we're making from marine services. They couldn't figure out how to present the rate because they had no experience doing it. So what they did, they said we gave the MPA 0.009 times the size of the ship. So if you look at the financials of the APM terminals, which we asked them to provide, in some cases where they made $39 million in marine services, the MPA gets about 39,000.
Wow.
So think about it. So average ship coming to port is 3,000 deadweight ton, right? So they take that 3,000. That 3,000 deadweight ton, if you look on the tariff, to bring that ship in is $1,500. To take it out is $1,500. Maybe another $1,000 for the pilot fee, then the mooring and everything. So that could come out to about $7,000 per port call. $7,000 for coming into our port. Depending on how many days they stay, it could be more, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much do we get out of the $7,000? You got your calculator, multiply 7,000 by 3,000, which is the size of the ship, the deadweight ton, 3,000 by 0.009.
0.009. Well, I was trying to do it manually. I can't. I don't know math. 3,000.009.
3,000 times 0.009.
Let me find a calculator because I can't.
And I'm not joking. 3,000 times 0.009.
3,000 times 0. Oh,
$27.
yeah, $27. 27. 3,000.009 is 27.
To make $27,000, where they make 7,000. Well, there are other small fees like environmental fee. I think we charge the ship a fee for the marine bows and lights in the pier, and maybe everything we can make about $500.
Mm-hmm.
The other extra fee that is not attributable to APM terminals.
Mm-hmm. But they walk away with about $6,000
Easily.
Oh, 6,500. Well, we walk away with 500.
So we stem that into the law. So I started to make the argument because I knew that it was just bad. I started to make the argument that look, marine services is never given to a private company because there are security implications for it too, because this is the vessels that we use to monitor our waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, because we do not have a search and rescue service for vessels that will be in distress in our huge marine acreage, it is the same tugboat that if they say, oh, a ship is burning, oh, I see, it is the tugboat we will send there to aid these people. And in that case, because we are required under international law to provide refuge to vessels in distress in our water, that tugboat will almost be acting like an ambulance or policeman, right? So the circumstance that we have signed on to, say a vessel were on fire in our waters, we have to ask APM Terminal to send their tugboat. And as a private business, it will be in their right to negotiate the terms of the use of their boat before they send it out. That being the case, it may negate the urgency that needed to respond to that stuff, which is a government responsibility rather than a private.
And if you don't respond in time, maybe after one or two times of business,
yeah. So we are at this impasse, and the state couldn't badge. Not that APMT was not badging. It's the PDU and the IMCC who were arguing against taking back marine services from the deal. So I did something crafty. Inside the agreement that they have signed, they had a clause that said that APM Terminal cannot price the port out of competition. So I said, okay. The next 2 days, I sought assistance from Sierra Leone. What is your marine service tariff? Send it to me. Guinea, Ivory Coast. So I paired their charges against what APMT was proposing. And APMT was almost 1,000% higher. So in the next negotiating term, I said, guess what? Unless you can bring your charges for marine services down, you are pricing the port out of competition, that will be in violation of this provision of the concession.
Of this provision, yeah.
So APMT asked for a break, and they came back and said, okay, we're willing to give marine services back, provided that the port commits itself to providing the best quality of service that would be commensurate to a port that we would be operating, which was a fair ask, right?
It was a fair ask, and they knew perhaps that we would not be in a position to.
So we learned from that day sexual happy hell that we become. In my mind, marine services is a major cash cow, but it's also uh, we got people who are training, who will be managing our boats, who have opportunities for other concessions. I mean, it's a huge opportunity that we're about to give up. The next day, the managing director called me and said, "Oh, the president said we should give marine services back to APMT." So the final agreement gave APMT Marine Services, but I insisted the next day that if what's the argument? They say, "Oh, the port does not." In fact, they quoted my own preliminary report because when I had come to consult, I did an assessment of the port facility, and I said the Marine Services Department was not up to standard, but that within 90 days before they take over the port, there was A, B, C things that could be done.
Yeah.
Well, the NEC guy, Richard Talbot, used my paper against me to the president that, oh, in fact, this very guy said that Marine Services
It's not up to standard, so we
not
can't
up to
provide
standard.
that service. Yeah,
And
so
we're all adding the conditions.
Yeah.
The president said they should hand it back to APMT. So I said, okay. So if the argument that the port is ill prepared, then let's put also in the agreement that on the 5th anniversary of the concession agreement, which would have been like 2015, 2016, the National Port Authority will have the right to take back marine services. That means they will have time enough to correct all deficiencies they have with marine. So it's in the agreement. It will interest you to know that we are in 2023. It's in the 13th year of the agreement, and the Port Authority has done nothing.
So that's where I was going to go, and sorry for cutting you off, because I was going to ask, whether there was any provision in the agreement that at certain point the contract could be reviewed, or that each party or even us as a government could, claw back some of the things or seek to even change some of the terms of the agreement. But you're already saying that is even in the agreement.
In the agreement. It's in the agreement that in 5 years, we will have the right to take back marine services, given those conditions that we will be able to be in a position of provide this marine service that is of international standard. Sadly, no marine service department was developed. The tugboats that they had before the concession, I think they probably sold them later on as scrap, or maybe moved them to some other place. The entire marine services department that have aged, passed out. In fact, just last week we're recognizing the memory of Captain Hill, who was the harbor master, who was probably the last known licensed marina in the free port. So this essential element of the port is not only operated by private company, but it is operating at the benefit of the private companies. I will leave that for the free port of Monrovia. We'll talk about marine services again. Let's bring our map and go to the next port of Buchanan. Buchanan. Like I said earlier, this is what we have for the port of Buchanan, the commercial pier. In years past, this pier was used mostly to export logs. Yeah, so out in the field, all the logging companies had their facilities there. I used to work with one of them called B&B, and they would drop the log in the water. The ships would use their own crane and lift the logs and load it. It was a big export port. Today, a limited quantity of logs are shipped out of Buchanan, if any. So the other part of the port is the ArcelorMittal iron ore pier where they lift iron ore from here.
Mm-hmm.
You will know that there have been this opportunity lingering for years about the possible use of Liberia for the transit of Guinea iron ore.
Yeah.
Right, they've been on and off. In fact, quite recently, there's a company called HPX. I think they're claiming that the WEA government took $30 million from them to give them the right to use the railroad to export through Buchanan, and nothing have come of it, and they're threatening to sue.
Yeah.
So from an opportunity perspective, Buchanan is an ideal transshipment port.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, from Buchanan, you have a rail line that runs all the way up to Nimba.
To Nimba. Yep.
So before the war, talking about even the Freeport of Monrovia, before the war, all the shipments for Mali, Bamako, for parts of Burkina Faso, Guinea, Forest region, all were landed in Liberia and trucked to those areas by transshipment. I mean, I'm going into these details of financial so that we can throw some color on the employment opportunities and get back to the statement that Edward Stettinius made to Tottenham in 1948 that knowing all we know, Liberians should not be poor. We have all these facilities that are dormant. If you go to Buchanan, ArcelorMittal is using expatriate workers for most of all the technical job along this port side. There was this controversy that arose, I think, a few months ago about some guy that President we are hired to be port manager in Buchanan that came from the States, and they levied fees on ArcelorMittal for jobs that they were not doing. So ArcelorMittal do the job, but because it was the right of the port to do the job, so ArcelorMittal was paying them, and they were taking that money into their personal coffers. I think this was one of the issues that drove the inclusion of the port managing director Bill Twaway on the U.S. Sanctions
list.
Yeah, but before the war, the Buchanan port was also used as an export port for flour, because there was a flour mill in Buchanan, in addition to the major logging activities. So if we're thinking right now, we'll be investing in this port facility in anticipation of the Guinea project.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's not only for the export of iron ore, but if that place is too far away from the port in Conakry to export iron ore, then the same logic will apply for the import of everything they need to build that infrastructure in Guinea. So
Exactly.
it also passes through the port of Buchanan.
Yeah.
Then we'll go to the port of Greenville. The port of Greenville is also a nothing burger, right? You know a nothing burger, right?
Yeah.
No meat in it.
Yep.
Hardly anything's happening over there. In fact, in one of my discussions yesterday with one of the experienced MPA guy, he started to crack with laughs that between the port of Greenville and the port of Buchanan, you know the major activity that's going on?
No.
They're using canoe to transport people and cargo.
Canoes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Highly risky, but
Yep.
completely inefficient.
Yep. Completely inefficient.
This is the port of Greenville. There's something there that looks like, I don't know what it is, an old picture that look like two tugboats. They're parked side by side there. But there's hardly anything happening there. And GVL is based here also. I had said earlier that except GVL facility, except they have decided to use that port, they were exporting their palm products to San Pedro. Right? And then Harper. Cape Palmas. So this is our southernmost port. Beautiful city that is almost in ruins. I was up there too in 2001 several times working for USAID. I mean, if you go into the city, even from this far, you can see all the houses there. They're
Yep.
in ruins.
Yep.
Yeah, they're
There's
in
no
ruins.
there's no real economic activity. People can.
Nothing highly anything, including President Todman's own
Uh-huh.
house. Yeah, President Todman's house is sitting up the hill here, going towards the port. Somewhere around here is in ruins. You look at the port. Also, it's a natural harbor, and I'll tell you, there are a lot of things that God blessed us with that we're not taking advantage of, and I will talk about it in a minute. But this is a Greenville port. It's here, and it's more or less an abandoned facility. Every now and then, some kind of boat will find its way there, and but it's not there's no plan for it for its use. Okay, then I talk about the port just south of Greenville here in San Pedro. No, this is still Liberia. San Pedro here. So San Pedro sucks a good bit of the industrial cargo that's for Liberia from the southeastern region.
Yep. Yep.
And the reason why they are prepared for it.
Yep.
They're prepared for it, right? Look at that. They have different ports handling different types of cargo. One of the things we're gonna talk on in terms of substances. One of the assets that we have that is even more valuable than our mineral deposits is our marine life.
Yeah.
And we have a history to explain that. If you look at the Liberian coast, 70,000 nautical miles of water. Before the 1980 coup, just one company. There were several fishing companies, but just one, the Monrovia or Maserado Fishing Company.
Maserado. Yep.
Maserado Fishing Company has some 26 trawlers, not canoes, real fishing vessels. There was another guy called Chapman Logan. He also had a fleet of fishing vessels. And they were fishing our waters efficiently, processing fish on the shores, and exporting them. If you went to supermarkets in London, supermarkets in New York, Chicago, Paris, you will see this package shrimps called the Atlantic shrimps, products of Maserado Fishing Company. It interests you to know that the same water is still over there, Alfonso.
And the same species are perhaps
Species are there.
we haven't been fishing them for a while, so maybe they have multiplied.
So the last I checked in 2018, a guy by the name of Vamo Reeves and myself were contracted to do economic studies for the Maserado Fishing Pier, and we got to know then that there were at least 28 licensed European trawlers fishing our waters by the National Aquaculture and Fisheries Agency, right? But here's the thing that will blow your mind. This stuff that should be industrialized and actually priced and engineered to provide significant employment, because the real value in the fishing is just not catching the fish in the water.
No.
Is the value chain in bringing the fish on shore and processing the fish, the
Processing it.
employment it creates, the other products that you get from the fish. God, you can get fish oil,
Yeah.
And then that fish that is cut in fillet is put in container ships, reefer container ship, and sent out to the world market. This is valuable product that you can get to the commodity market every day and find out what's the price of tuna, what's the price of grape, or what. Those are valuable commodities, just like they're pricing gold and fluctuating every day, right? So why do we not have a fish processing facility in the Freeport? Even though we have all the vast facility space.
We have the space and perhaps some of the infrastructure there that can be developed into,
Correct. The World Bank invested $3 million and retrofitted the old ice factory of the Maserado Fishing Company, which is on the north breakwater of the port, right?
Mhm.
The north breakwater of the port. I'll take you there so we can get actual picture. They retrofitted it for NAFA, the fisheries agency. So they have offices there. They got monitors there to some extent look at what's happening in our water. And I don't know whether the assistance is designed so that we cannot invest, in fishery, because you got a European trawlers in our waters, and they they do not bring their cash to our land. Yeah,
Mhm.
here's the facility here, the Maserado.
So my question on that is, why are the European trawlers fishing in our water? Do they have a contract to do so? And second, why aren't they bringing their cash
So
to
so
our shores? Yeah.
so here's the deal, right?
Right.
The answer to the last question is that they're saying that we do not have the facility to take their fishing boats and
Mhm.
to process it, right?
Yep.
So what do we do? And that's on us. So we can either build a facility, or we can look for either through our own cash, or we can bring private capital
Mhm.
to invest, similarly like we did with APMT in the PPP,
Yep.
and build a fish processing facility, because the goose is there, right? So how do we make money? This will blow your mind. Before a fishing vessel enter our water to fish, theoretically,
Mhm.
they have to request the right to fish and submit to us what they call a catch plan. That catch plan will have the species that they are going to fish and the quantity that they expect to fish. So, for example, tuna. Tuna is migratory, right?
Yep.
So the tuna fleet is moving, maybe from around Ivory Coast, is moving along our coast and heading towards Sierra Leone. So the guys get a license from us that, oh, we'll be in Liberian waters for 2 weeks catching tuna. We're gonna catch 100 tons of tuna. These are projections, right?
Mhm.
And then we're gonna, because you are catching tuna, you will catch something else in it. So they also calculate for something called bar catch. What we do, the tuna, based on the market value of tuna at that moment, we price their projection. So say there was $1,000 for a ton of tuna, and they're catching 100 ton. So
100
we know
ton.
they're gonna be catching $100,000 worth of tuna from our waters, right? So based on that catch plan, we make them to pay before time 6% as their fishing fee. So they pay us that 6% wire to government's account, and they get into our waters. When they complete that fishing period, they send another plan to reconcile the pre-plan with what they actually caught, and
Of
then
the catch.
we'll do the adjustment. Here's what's wrong with that. In serious country where there is a plan for optimizing this vital resource we have in our marine space, the vessel has to come on land and process that catch.
Yep.
If the vessel's coming on land to process that catch, then we all know how much and what kind of seafood they caught,
They caught. Yeah.
so we can tax it appropriately, right? But because they were operating on a catch plan, well, there's nothing to say that what's on the paper is the same as what they actually catch. How do we verify that?
There's no verification.
So, how we compensate for that? We got in our regulation that we put a NAFA inspector on the ship for the duration of the fishing in our water. Assuming we can do that, I'm saying assuming because that means you have to have the ability to send a boat to meet that ship in the sea, or to send a helicopter,
Yeah.
or, or,
So
or
transfer your inspector there.
there
Yep.
and back. Assuming we can do that. If you take an inspector whose compensation, a Liberian man, whose salary is probably about $600-700 a month, right? And put him on board that vessel as your only verifier. You don't see something wrong with that?
Yeah. That's a, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for, for the process to be corrupted.
So guess what happens?
Mm.
Most of the vessels that are licensed to catch in our water, they go and process their fish in San Pedro. So the Ivorians are actually benefiting from the value chain
Mm-hmm.
of the commodities that are coming from
Liberia,
our waters.
our raw material, basically.
And there doesn't seem to be any urgency to remedy that. Yet we put ourselves in a position every day that we are very poor. We are very poor. So that's one. That's a whole lot of resource sitting down there. So we need to know how. We need the plans. First thing, we are in the business of not even hiring the right qualified people who even understand this stuff. The other thing that we can consider when we're talking about ports is the use of our coastal space. If you look at the topography of our country, if you travel around the country, I found so the country have a lot of big waterways.
Yeah.
The St. John River, the St. Paul River. I mean, you got a whole lot of other rivers crossing the country. You will never know until you there. Just recently, we are hearing that the major bridge that is over the St. John River between Firestone and Buchanan might be cracking in. Right?
Yeah.
But just think about if we were investing in the use of our coastal waters. So we connect our major coastal dwelling because majority of the population of our country live along the coast.
Along the coast.
If we were able to commission a reliable shipping line,
Yeah.
using ferries that have the ability to load on and load off, we call it a rural ferry, and we diligently call every major coastal town, we'll be able to create value, supply everything people need on and off the coast, and then we can focus on developing the roads away from the waterways.
Exactly.
Because think about it, if you are looking at coming from Greenville Sino to Zwedru, right?
Yeah.
You are going straight up. The water actually is running north-south, so you don't encounter major waterway. That's why we have succeeded in building the road from Kipamas
From
to Fishtown.
To Fishtown and River G. Yep.
Super
highway. Yeah.
So if we're serving all these coastal towns, all we have to do is to just develop the roads going north, connecting those roads or maintaining them. But they will be easier to maintain because we'll take a lot of weight from the big trucks
off of them. Exactly.
Off of them because we're using our natural advantage along the coast. You understand that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know we being heavily technical. I hope a lot of
listeners are not, the listeners are staying with us.
Yeah, I hope a lot of this stuff
no, but that is an important, very, very important point, especially with moving of goods and services, but also of transportation of people. Transportation of people. Why is it that we don't have? I mean, as you were just saying, Buchanan to Monrovia. Buchanan to Monrovia, Monrovia to Ravelsport, Greenville to Harper. Those are important transportation routes.
Put reliable ferries along those roads. They are easier routes. You can move a whole lot of stuff easily. Yeah. It would take you to now. We're in the rainy season, so if somebody's leaving from Monrovia to go to Kipamas, it would take them the better part of a week, if not more.
To get there.
There.
But if you took the goods or whatever from, first of all, the question I always ask is, I want to ship a container or whatever, some materials to my people in the Southeast. Why is it that I have to take it to Monrovia when we got 2 or 3 ports that I could ship to.
Yeah. So
And
the
then,
logic about that, Alfonso, is that the container ship has to leverage. It's called a loading factor. It has to have
yeah,
enough containers to be able
yeah,
to call a particular port.
hmm
But if you had a feeder service
yeah,
that was coming out of Monrovia and going there, that is much smaller, so they could consolidate the cargo that comes to
hmm
Monrovia that is headed
yeah,
for all those southeastern towns.
yep,
Just do the drop off and then collect commodities that are intended for export and bring them back to
to,
Monrovia.
to
Yeah,
Monrovia.
it can
Exactly.
be done. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but this
And
it cannot happen by itself.
no, somebody has to do it. But the vision has to first be there. And then somebody has to do it.
It
So
cannot happen by itself.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, up to now, we still haven't seen. It must yet something must be happening in Monrovia.
And
Yeah,
he
but
did not. And you call him, and he didn't.
he guess what? He called me yesterday through the studio link to test his link.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and send me some materials that he wanted to display because he's also a contestant, I think, in district number 1 or something for the position of House of Representative.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
but basically, these are some of the
mhm.
opportunities we have, and how have we approached them? How do you think we've come to this level where we have in arm's reach opportunities that were given to us by God Himself? Let me tell you something about Liberia that I didn't mention. Right, if you look at the Liberian coastline, right, from Cape Palmas to Cape Mount, geostudies that have been done show that we have a deeper coastline than our
Mhm.
neighbors. What that means we our continental shelf is close to the shore, so
Yeah,
we have deep waters,
yeah,
which is ideal for building ports because you
yep,
do not have to excavate a whole lot of rocks and stuff.
yeah.
It's
Mhm.
almost as though that place God gave it to us. Say your own job would be to have ports.
Have
Yeah.
ports.
If you
To
go
have.
up to Sierra Leone, the beaches in Sierra Leone stay open late into night because people can walk up to a mile into the sea.
Into the sea. Mm.
Beaches of Sierra Leone because it remains shallow for a long time. It does not have depth. So it's only in small places in those different countries where they can build ports. Look, for example, in the Ivory Coast, a very financially affluent country like the Ivory Coast, they have only 2 ports. Why?
Yeah.
Because
They don't have.
the
Yeah.
rest of the other areas there are tougher terrain to
Mm-hmm.
build ports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. So that gives us an advantage in the region.
Oh
Yet
yeah,
yes, our port doesn't even measure up to
no, we don't
our
leverage.
major port doesn't even measure up to anything in the region. Because I was looking up the 10 busiest ports in Africa and then in the region, and Port of Monrovia is not even counted.
No, not here because I mean, if you look at the volume of
Yeah,
cargo that goes through our port
yeah, yeah.
is I don't want to say nominal.
No,
Is
it's, it's negligible. Yeah.
really
Now, can we talk a little bit about the concept of dry ports? Since in fact we were talking about moving goods, leveraging and therefore moving goods once they arrive at one port to the other ports. So Monrovia takes bigger ships and there are more shipments to Monrovia. So they go to Monrovia and then they get transferred maybe to the southeast. What is the concept of dry port, if you can talk about it?
okay. So a dry port first is basically a port away from the sea,
Yeah.
right? So what drives a dry port first is cargo.
Mm-hmm.
So how many persons? So this discussion was brought out a little bit when I was consulting with the port when they were looking at an alternative to Monrovia. Since APMT were taking Monrovia, they wanted to develop the port of Buchanan as another container port. And I made
Mm-hmm.
a case to them that, well, I've sent significant hinterland cargo, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no way that port will be
will
because
thrive. Yeah.
empty vessels don't go to ports.
No.
Have to be bringing cargo. So it's the same logic. So if you want a dry port, that means you have a consuming population that is far away from the ocean, that has a need for import and export. So you go in, say for example, in Ganta, you go and claim a piece of land there and build a container yard there. So anybody who trying to ship stuff out of Guinea, they can ship right out of that port. They can collect empty container from there, load their stuff, deliver it there, and then whoever company that is handling the export will take it to the coast. So that concept is basically what the dry port concept is. It will create a whole lot of value, economic activity in that area, but it's the precedent for it is the availability of cargo inbound and outbound. So one example of a dry port, which is a liquid port, is the LPRC facility in Ganta. I think during the Talbot era, they built some tank farms in Ganta. And the notion was that they will lift petroleum products from the coast to those tank farms and open a mini storage facility there so that people who are seeking to buy petroleum product from the northern region or from Guinea, Ivory Coast, Mali, do not have to come to Monrovia to buy petroleum products. So that imported commodity will be moved further inland to that facility. I'm almost sure that that LPRC facility in Ganta is a white elephant.
It's probably dormant.
Yes,
but so the thing is, the consideration is that, and I agree, there should be enormous cargo or whatever to be moving to, to.
But you can generate that demand.
That is my question. So isn't it cyclical, such that we don't have the cargo, so therefore we don't have the dry port, or we don't have that? But could it also be flipped around to say, well, we don't have that movement because we don't have
we have not created the condition for it,
the incentive. So people producing in those places want to bring their stuff to market. They can't bring it because of the roads, and there's no facility they can bring it to. And then they also want to ship things over there, but they can't ship them because that facility doesn't exist, and those things can be created. That flow can be.
Yeah, good point. Most of our production in coffee and cocoa end up in Ivory Coast.
Yes.
Right. So that means all the production in Nima, parts of Bong, or Grand G there, River G, Grand Cru, Maryland. Their bulk production, they could be centralized at a dry port inland where you can consolidate. We're talking about the Guinea Forest region, where this whole idea of the Guinean mine and the potential concessionaires are saying that they need to use Liberia, right?
Yeah.
So suppose we start to do a feasibility study. You have major Guinean towns with more than 1 million people right across the border from Ganta, called Zedikore.
Yeah.
They are about 500 or 400 miles from their coast in Conakry. So Monrovia is closer to them, right? So if you could do an assessment of the demand and sell that idea of, because logistics is based on cost.
Yeah.
If the man realized that, look, I can get my import and export at half the price through Liberia than using Conakry, ain't got nothing to do with citizenship, nationality.
No. I mean, he wants to make money. He wants to make money.
He wants to make money.
Yeah.
So it can be done, but the vision has to be there, and where the vision starts from is the employment of the best know-how. Yeah. Who are the people who are driving this process? I mean, you look at our country. We change our country. Look at the major things that the government used to get money. One of the major things they're using to get money now, that license plate business.
Yeah.
So certain time they put police all over.
Yeah.
And they block everybody, a license plate is not current, and they raise money from that. But in the process of raising money, they literally shut down the country for 2-3 weeks.
You shut down the economy. You shut down movement of people to raise a few.
You're making money on one side, but you're losing money
on the other side.
On the other side. Yeah, They have
People not
no
buying gasoline, people not traveling, people not moving their goods and services. What are you? I mean, their goods and services, I should say. What are you talking about?
yeah, but this to say that the opportunities are there and they are
Mm,
enormous. They can be
yeah.
leveraged if you put the right mindset together. And we shouldn't shy away from the fact that every country that has advanced, they did not advance on the back of assistance.
No, no, no.
Because for you to there's something peculiar about country. Once you have a country, you basically have everything
Yeah,
there
yeah.
that you can manipulate to be able to sustain yourself and your population. We are even in a much better situation than many
Than many countries. I
other
agree.
countries because we are not many. We have go around the country, my man. I travel around the country, the southeast. I mean, you see lush forests.
Hmm. Hmm.
You go to Bapulu, people are finding diamonds
Yeah.
in Creek. There's a big argument in Liberia now about a missing diamond.
And I listened to the assistant minister at Lands and Mines, and he said, "Oh, don't mind the people that political season. Some people found the diamond, I give it back to them." But I went to the southeast to register to vote, and the people making noise in this car. I said, "Oh my god!"
But where in the world? How many places you go for you find diamond?
Yeah,
Right? And you're finding diamond because you are not even they're doing what they call rudimentary alluvial mining. They're not even doing industrial mining. That means that thing they're doing, they will be doing it on the Jesus come, the diamond will still be there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have wealth, we have significant wealth in the country that we can manipulate. Some of it are not earth metals, some of it are just ideas. Just
That's.
ideas.
I would say that the biggest resource, the biggest wealth that any country has is ideas. Is this human resource? It's being able to tap and develop whatever resources they have or creating
Yeah.
resources where they're not available, creating
Because the
opportunities.
potential is there. All you have to do is to manipulate it.
Yeah. I mean, when the United States of America saw that the iron and steel and everything and the manufacturing was going away, they went to another
Yeah.
economic base.
Yeah.
So now the biggest thing in this country is money market.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
started Wall Street, the trading money, the doing all of these because
And they're
the
making money just on speculation.
on speculations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ideas. It's ideas. This is the biggest resource that any people have. It's not, yes, your mineral resources, but after a while, those things get depleted. So what do you do? What is Saudi Arabia doing now? Diversifying into several areas, including even golf.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now they
So yeah,
realize that at some point
yeah.
in time they might not have the oil.
The oil, they might not always have the oil. So what do we do to sustain our economy and to make advancements? So they go into other things to diversify, and as they go along, as you said earlier, they add value. You dig this gold. What's the next thing? You don't just dig it from underground and then that's it. And somebody takes it out of the country. No, you
No.
dig.
No.
Yeah. What's Can we find another group of people who can maybe help to process it, clean it, polish it, do whatever, even before it gets to the market, if you must export it. So yeah, absolutely. It's the human capital. That's the biggest thing. Oh, and yeah. The other question though is you talk a lot about, our maritime resources, our ports and all of that. Do we have the trained human resources in the country? Do we have any training institutions in the country? Or are we just simply still relying on maybe a country or a company giving few people scholarships to go out and study and come back?
So we have a maritime school in the Marshall, but I don't think it's optimized because what are they training them for?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Because in the maritime sector, you train people for specific roles.
Exactly.
For example, the ships that ply in the national sea wants a crew. And that crew have a captain who's the pilot of the ship. You have a marine engineer, navigator. These big ships you see moving around us, some of the guy only 12 persons on those ships really
Mhm.
trained. And the tradition now is for them to come from one cultural heritage,
Mm-hmm.
all nationality. So not only that they are educated, but they have a sense
Yeah.
of they can communicate without talking.
Mm-hmm.
If I may say that, I'll give you an example. There was, I think it was 1988, a vessel sunk right off the a Scandinavian port called the Herald of Free Enterprise. This is a rural vessel. What a rural vessel is basically the vessel has two gates on the front side and the back side that opens for stuffs to go in it and come out. And these vessels can take a whole train, can take trucks. And then on the top part is a superstructure where people go and sit or sleep. These vessels are commonly used in the Scandinavian countries because there are a lot of water between Denmark, Copenhagen, and Oslo and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this vessel is leaving one of the ports. One of the risks of that vessel is because those gangs have to open and close. They have to be closed very well before the vessel sails out.
Yep.
In that case, some kind of metal was between the gate and the gate didn't close properly.
Mm.
When the vessel got off the pier, it started to take water. And unlike break bulk vessels where they are partitioned all in the vessel so you can contain the water in one area, that vessel is like a parking lot, right? So the
Yeah.
water just spread quickly, and in a matter of minutes, the ship sank with a lot of people on board. And the studies that was done to find out why they were not able to respond to that emergency and pull that piece of iron out. One of the things that they came up with that has become a standard in maritime war was that this was a multinational crew. And in the hour of emergency, the people panic. The Liberian man, he was say, "Oh, something." When the Liberian man yell, "Oh," the Liberian man, no.
When one Liberian man, yeah, oh, the other Liberian man know there's problem.
He knows there's a problem, but because they came from different cultural orientation, before they could really figure out what was going on, just from the science standpoint, the vessel was gone down. So it had become tradition to hire a national crew. Now, if you just got a rudimentary, a low-level school in Liberia that is just training able-bodied men,
Yeah.
not even any kind of technical skills, how do you fit them on a ship? Because they have to be part of a crew. It's a national crew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you can do that, if at the same time you are constructively training some people to be pilots,
Yep.
in another school, you are training some people somewhere to be marine engineers, and then you phase them together as a crew over time to offer to your vessel. So most time when people ask the question, "Oh, you got 5,000 vessels flying Liberian flag, why are Liberians not working on it?"
Mm-hmm.
The reason is simple: because Liberians have not been trained to be able to man those vessels. And the vessel owner is not just going to take a Liberian on a vessel because the Liberian flag ship. In fact, it's the very reason why he came to Liberia, because he can get a chance to hire a cheap crew from the Philippines. So suppose we're developing crew plans where we put in maritime crews together and getting the right training and licensing. We are already on the table with the ship owners because good number of their ships are in our flag.
Yeah.
So that's a huge opportunity to employ our people.
So that, sorry. So
Go ahead.
really that takes me into the education system and, and the objective of our education system. Like, what do we want to accomplish by our education system? What do we want our education system to do? And just learning about education systems around the country, they should be tailored to the needs and to the economy.
Yeah. What are we training our people for?
Or the region. What are we training our people? What are the resources or opportunities that we have that we want them to work in and exploit and utilize?
Imagine Captain Hill
have
just died. And there's no
exactly.
There's no foreseeable replacement for him among Liberians.
Yeah. So let's go to Marshall, the school in Marshall, the maritime school in Marshall. We also have community colleges in Marshall. We have this significant maritime and oceanic resource. Why aren't we training people? Why aren't our universities, but more so our community colleges along the sea? We have a community college, probably a college university or a college now in Buchanan. We have one in Cape Mount. We have maybe one or two in Cape Mount. We have one in Margibi, in Lofa. why aren't they training people in these, in these areas? And I believe I see Emma, so I'll stop here and let you
Amos,
bring.
can you hear us?
Hey, Cyrus, I can hear you. How are you, man?
What's going on, my man? You guys have a time problem change in Liberia?
Oh, but I think it was like 11. You said it's just 8. I'm just testing the system at this point.
You gotta be kidding me. I've been sending you a message. The program started at 7 o'clock
Man,
Monrovia time.
look at that. Oh man,
Yeah, but
it
hey,
is so bad.
it's good that we have you. I've been sending you messages. I
We
don't
were,
know.
we were almost leaving, man. Then you just,
All right, folks, I can just make a concluding statement.
No,
Without
that's
the
all right.
without a definitive statement.
I know Afonso will indulge us a little bit. We've been hoping that
yeah.
that you would come so that we can be too one-sided in this discussion. So since you're here, tell us welcome first and tell us about yourself, a little bit about yourself, and then we can
Oh, okay.
rehearse some.
My name is Amos Sibo.
Amos, let me make a little bit of a joke. Let me make a little bit of a joke. You're in the dark. We can see your face. I'm fine
Oh
with it.
no, sorry.
If people can't see you.
I think I have to do it the other way around. Okay. Is it a little better
Yeah,
than before?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. They'll hear you.
All right, folks. I'm happy to be on with you guys. My name is Amos Sibo. I'm a development practitioner in Liberia. We've worked on a number of problems for a number of projects in terms of national development in the port sector, in the road sector, energy sector, education sector, health sector, and a lot of sectors. We worked with Mr. Cyrus Gray out there when we were doing the Freeport of Monrovia concession. And interestingly, he had told me that one of us had passed, Captain Hill, peace be unto his ashes. I'm saddened by his passing. He had been one of the folks who, were there for the National Port Authority when people were needed. People with knowledge were needed. So it's good to be on with you guys. I'm very happy. I hope that these kinds of activities can continue. Sorry about my timing. I really thought it was 11 p.m. in Liberia.
Okay. Well, we have you now, so we make use of you, Amos. One thing I wanted to, I understand you are contesting for one of the representative seats, right?
Yes, in electoral district number 1 in Monrovia County. And there is, Monrovia County is county number 1. And therefore we are
Where is District 1?
people. Yeah, our county is county number 1, and we are in District 1. So we are people 1 in the Republic of Liberia. Yes, that's where I'm contesting for, and it's a place that is usually highly contested. In 2017, there were about 21 candidates. And it promises to be way more than 39 candidates at the moment. They are aspirants. Let's see who will be able to get qualified, to stay on as candidates. My reason for contesting is largely to liberate the district. At this point in the game, the district is largely unrepresented. Our lawmaker feels like hell. If you read the recent reports, the guys go F all the time.
Where is district number 1, Amos?
District number 1 runs from, if you know Painesville Red Light, you go towards Mount Barclay. Mount Barclay, as soon as you pass by Mount Barclay, there are 2 hills. One of them is called Nima United Hill.
Yeah.
And the other one, what Naked Hill? Imagine that.
Is it Red Hill?
No. It's on the way to Carrickbread from Mount Barclay. There are 2 hills immediately past Mount Barclay.
I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that red clay hill after the gas station. Is that it?
Oh, that red clay hill is around Omega. You have to pass it and go to Mount Barclay before you go to where you are.
Far. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And where does it go inland towards Bill?
Towards Kakata. It is the largest district in Monrovia County in terms of land mass. I think almost the largest district in the country.
So this place, what is it? Todi is in that district.
Yeah, imagine our district covers three statutory districts: the Todi district, the Carisburg district, and the Commonwealth district. Commonwealth district consists of places like Louisiana, White Plains and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
They are also part
Do
of
you
electoral district number 1.
do you know the population in that district?
I can give you the registration figure:
Okay.
56,756 were registered to vote. So that tells you that we are in the neighborhood of 80, 90,000, because
Hold
those
on.
who are not eligible to vote are more than those who are eligible to vote.
No, so
Our population is way more
I
youthful.
was saying, so more than 56,000 people live in that legislative district, registered to vote in that legislative district.
Correct.
So
Yeah, 756 registered to vote.
So more people than that actually live there. And I'm asking this question because the Constitution provides that 25,000 people should have, a district. And here you are, have more than up to 90,000 people in a district with one representative. That affects representation. And that's why
you are quoting Article 80 of the Constitution. And that part of it says that whatever number will be decided upon by the legislature.
Yeah.
By 2011, they set the threshold at 40,000. Today, we have more than 70, 80,000 people in the district. We haven't been able to set the threshold. Another failure, another blatant disregard for our Constitution has just happened. We have a situation where ListGIS has come up with a report of up to 98%. So we have 2% of the report not yet provided. Can you imagine of the present, ListGIS have been unable to provide the country with a full report from the recent census. And once the report is not completed, the legislature could hesitate to pass the threshold. And if they don't pass the threshold, Elections Commission cannot go ahead and do the delineation or delimitation, new boundary setting like they're supposed to do, to be able to come up with what a new district should look like. Because honestly, if you go back to the threshold resolution that was passed after the 2008 census, you will know that you were talking about around 40,000. Now, just the register of voters in District 1 has passed 56,000. So if you want to count everybody in the district from 1 day old to 100 years old, you are going to get way more than 60, 70, 80,000 people. At this point, you could say it's a violation of the past threshold resolution. But the legislature, they don't care. In fact, when the key debate were on for this registration issue and the threshold issue, they decided to go on break. They were hoping that the president would call them back for emergency session and give them some money. The president didn't do that. Now that they are back, they have said nothing about this. This is another blatant disregard for our Constitution. I think something has to be done about that. We can't continue to break the laws. We violate the laws too much in our country. And in our district, I can tell you the very same kinds of national contradictions that we are faced with nationally, our district faces similar things. Nationally, you know that we had the best law school for a number of decades in the whole of Africa. And yet, if you take a look at our legal sector now, you want to cry. Similarly, we had the best medical school for decades, many decades in the whole of the continent. And guess what? Look at our health sector. People have to be flown from here to Accra and other places to get treatment for that could be done right here. recently, as something as I know, as easy now has been made all over the country as that thing that wherein yes, where you gotta go to the dialysis machine and stuff like that. It is recently before we got one dialysis machine in this country. It is a very serious disappointment. So district number one faces similar contradictions. You know, we are the one hosting the hydro. And guess what? Under 5% of our people are served with electricity. We are the ones hosting the water treatment plant. I don't know of a single house in District 1 that has pipeline water. Everything goes to Monrovia. These kinds of contradictions have to change right now. As I speak to you, the capital of Monrovia County is Bensonville. Our mansion, our capital building, LEC power. These are very serious problems the country, the district is faced with. We have to change that situation around. I just called the superintendent about 2-3 days ago and said, look, how can we deal with this? My next mission, I'm not yet a representative, but as an aspirant, I think I can be able to talk to Mr. Monique Captain, the CEO of LEC, and say, look, we cannot continue to have the kind of situation. Please help us. Put a line there to run, the superintendent office in Buffalo. It is so bad. And mind you, we are the bringers of light. At one point, they will say to you, water is life, and we don't have water, even though we produce water for the rest of the county, the rest of the city. So the bringers of life and the bringers of light are living in both darkness and dying of thirst.
Who is the current representative?
A guy called Lawrence Morris.
The guy used to be with the Minor River.
Yes, exactly. He has the poorest record so far as a lawmaker. The record is so poor, my brother.
Are you running on the ticket of any of the political parties, or are you an independent candidate?
Independent. I'm independent at this point. And the reason behind that is you want to go to the legislature and want to have yourself there free of your thought, not be bounded by any kind of party ideology.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a little bit. You're running for representative now. You're talking about all of these great ideas. So 2 quick questions here. When did you start talking about all of these great ideas for your people? And what have you done? I'm not asking about whether you built school or road for them, but what have you done in terms of attracting these resources that you are now advocating as a candidate before you even became a candidate?
Okay, I can tell you, yes, I did road. Just to begin with, yes, I did a number of roads. There are a lot of right roads, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I don't look at road and stuff as the stuff, because those are individual things, and unfortunately, people use those things to lure people. I think that bringing national resources to bear is quite more important than putting a little road here and there. But that's commendable nonetheless.
Okay, so let me say, I started since 2016 paying attention to the district. And I come from a part of the district, a place called Kingsville. Kingsville is the biggest town in the entire district. It is bigger than Harrisburg City. If you look at the map of Kingsville, it is so big. Now, we have the population center where we find ourselves. All right. The thing, though, is that when we look at the situation at the moment, our district needs a lot. To begin with, we are largely rural because we have the whole of Todi. We have, like I said, 3 statutory districts constituting electoral district number 1. So the Todi part has all the arable lands. And guess what? We cannot produce, we produce almost nothing. We have all of the potential. And then even in the business world, we don't see innovation in the private sector. Like I'm saying, I am going to be the first lawmaker who will go to Capitol building on day one with a bill in his hands for entrepreneurship development, especially in the manufacturing sector. While my colleagues will be thinking about who to become speaker, who to be the speaker, I will have those bills on the table for us to discuss.
What would that bill be seeking to do? I know Cyrus wants to come in, and I'm interested in discussing other things. But that entrepreneur training bill, what will it be trying to accomplish? And how will you accomplish it? Because really, in the legislature, it's majority decision-making process.
Yes, the way it's going to go. The aim of that bill is to create Liberian business millionaire. It's as difficult as you are hearing it. I can explain the process to you that is so simple. I used to work with the World Bank. And you know the World Bank is a group. We have the International Finance Corporation as a member of the World Bank group. The IFC helps in providing loans to government, especially when it comes to business development for the private sector. We have some very young and talented Liberians who have attempted manufacturing some things. There's a young guy called Johnson. He's involved with this kind of fresh, using palm kernel oil to produce body lotion. He is able to produce stuff that could even compete with Johnson baby oil. You know the Johnson & Johnson thing, you know it across there. So these kind of guys, the bill seeks to establish an office within the presidency. That office will hire business development experts who will in turn work with these entrepreneurs and find out the difficulties they are faced with. Good portion of it could be that they don't have the financing to expand their businesses, to be able to create the logistical network across the country, to deliver the products all around the country. So that office job will be to work with them, develop very compelling proposals. Those kinds of proposals are going to be the ones that we will take to the bank. But before we get to the bank, we will begin to discuss with the International Finance Corporation for monies, between $5 and $10 million to remain in the bank. And mind you, we're not going to use that money to give to these guys. Whereas that money is going to be used for, it's going to be used for, something like a collateral, like a guarantor, for them to receive private sector financing to improve their business, who have been looked at by this office we've speaking about. This office job also extends to helping them implement the loan and to be able to create the national logistical network to move their products all around the country. There are some products here, my people, they are not made here, but they are everywhere. If you went to any shop across the country, you'll find them. One of them is a soup sweetener called Vita Cube. You find that everywhere, every shop you went to. So a product that is made in Liberia could also be moved like that if the producer has the kind of logistical network to be able to move his products across the country.
And those are brilliant, those are wonderful, brilliant ideas. Before you continue, so you said two things. You will advocate for the creation of this office within the president's office, within the presidency. That's a little bit interesting, but we can get to that later. The other question I want to ask is all of this not possible until you become a representative? Is all of this advocacy, is all of this creation of these plans, are they not possible until you can become a representative?
Don't even see a word. Yeah, it's absolutely impossible.
Okay.
It is possible if those who are in the position are able to do it. If you are not in that position, you can't get that across. To be able to advocate for an office to be established within the presidency, you have to be coming from somewhere of some kind of power. You have to have that kind of link. You have to have that kind of understanding. And these kinds of bills are bipartisan in nature. Nobody's going to say that it's against them. It's going to be in favor of every political institution. They will want to see Liberian entrepreneurs becoming millionaires. Whatever party you come from, you want to see that. And interestingly, I am going in as an independent candidate. So it tells you that there is not a fight with me and anybody else or any kind of political institution. No fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Iris, did you want to come in? I don't want to.
Yeah. Okay. It must. Well, thanks for delving us. I can see the passion that you are approaching your aspiration with. Right. Is there anything about your candidacy that you would like to share with our audience? Then I will ask you one or two.
Yeah, there are other things. Our district is located in Monrovia County, but it is up to 95% extremely rural. One of the problem we are faced with is the problem with roads. All right? And you know, a certain portion of our district finds itself in the Firestone Plantation Company. We are aware that they come up annually with their corporate social responsibility financing, which is something people don't hear about, but we know they are there. We are going to engage with Firestone. The idea is to be able to have a set of road equipment, including the road grader, the end loader, trucks, back hook, front hook, everything that makes up a set of equipment, including compactors. If Firestone can deliver that to us as a corporate social responsibility funding, since they are operating within a good portion of our district, that will help. And my intention is to work with them, exert the biggest of force with them until we can be able to get something like that. The intention is when we have such an equipment for our district, we are going to be able to resurface, re-gravel, re-dish, re-shoulder up to 100 kilometers of roads every year using that. How will we get the operators of the equipment? Firestone itself retires people every year. There's a place called 15 Gate. I know you guys know that place now. You guys may know 15 Gate. That place has a lot of Firestone retirees, including operators of those equipment, those kinds of equipments. Those are people who can and have them, place them on government payroll as consultants because of their ages, and be able to use them because they are inside the Firestone tradition. The reason why I keep mentioning Firestone is because if you drive in the Firestone, most of the roads are not paved, but you will not bounce. So all boils down system maintenance. So I believe that if you have such a thing in place and you try to maintain the road throughout the time, you'll be able to arrive at a situation where the roads become very passable consistently. And I have said that we are going to do 100 kilometers every year across the district. By far, this is the largest district, if not across the entire country, but in Monrovia County. The other thing we're going to focus on is agriculture. You know, people, we've been farming ever since. The kind of way we've been doing it had been that the government of Liberia meet with smallholder farmers, small farming cooperatives, and they give them, you know, annually you give them the PPE, you know, the rain shoes and the rain suit. You give them smallholder tools like hand tools, shovel, digger, you know, politics and stuff like that. And they gave them some kind of fertilizer to go and produce. And guess what? The next year, they gave them the same things. Sometimes they skip years in between, hoping that they will produce more than before. Somebody has defined that as stupidity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And that's the way it has been going on for time immemorial. We think we should look at it differently. If you look at a part of my first 100 days deliverables, we are going to ensure we sign an MOU with one of the soil testing laboratories in Liberia. University of Liberia has one, PWI has another. We could sign an MOU of one of them to conduct a comprehensive soil testing, comprehensive survey of the entire district, all the arable lands, and come up with a map indicating to us what can be able to perform where. One of the problems we have, we just plant stuff everywhere. We have no scientific idea as to what grows better where. So I think we should do that. What we have is a map of our district depicting what grows where. We will be able, that's the beginning of how you grow better crops. The other thing to look at is how you grow it. What we've been doing from time immemorial is, if you want to plant cassava, identify a piece of land, clear the land, dig a hole, place the cassava stick in it, cut it into pieces and place it there, and cover it. If you grow cassava that way, you're not going to get best results because you expect a tuber from the cassava to struggle its way through the soil. Even if it's a difficult soil, you want the cassava to grow through that soil. So what we hope to do is to show our people better method of doing the same work, the same farming they've been doing. You have to dig a very good bed to plant the cassava if you want the cassava to produce well. So the method of growing crops have been a problem. And District number 1 has a unique opportunity in terms of agricultural product. You know, we have one product that you cannot find anywhere else in the country. That product actual name is rumba term, but in Liberia it is called monkey apple. I know you have seen it. Have you seen it, people?
Yeah.
Yes.
District number 1 is the sole producer of monkey apple. Nowhere else in the country is produced. So our aim is to work with CARI on the value chain situation to see how we can be able to work with them and see what kind of different products we can make out of that. So there are some people who will eat that monkey apple seed, and the seed is tasty. If you chew it, it tastes nice. It feels that it has oil in it. It feels milky and stuff like that. So they can run some tests and be able to determine how much different products we can be able to get out of, monkey apple. Since we are the only producer, if we are able to come up with a number of products from it, we can make a lot of money from it.
It grows wide.
Okay. Yeah, it grows like a very huge tree. Sometimes one tree, the 100 pounds bag, sometimes a big tree will produce about 10 of those kinds of bags full. Uh-huh. I'm not talking about the 25 kilogram bag we're having now. I'm talking about the 100 pounds bag.
We're having now. Okay.
So you want to invest in monkey apple? Okay, let me get to some food questions. The first one I want to ask you, because you have been in the middle of a food reform from the very beginning in Madam Salif's office. Could you give us an idea? Could you give us an idea what was the driver behind the outsourcing of the Freeport of Monrovia? What was the idea?
Okay, so this is what happened after you had a government in place. The discussions surrounding, how to kickstart the economy, how to jumpstart the economy came up. And so, for the fact that the economy of Liberia is largely import driven, so the port had to be given attention. And in that line, the government of Liberia and her development partners came out with a port reform implementation group, including the World Bank, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Transport, the National Port Authority, the Ministry of Justice, the RIA, etc., as the port reform implementation group. But because those institutions consist of people who are already busy with their job, there had to be a coming into being of a secretariat to do the job. So that is when we had the Port Reform Implementation Group Secretariat, which we were a member of. The idea was to reform the Freeport of Monrovia. A number of things were happening, my brother. First of all, the marginal wharf. Out there, it is called a pier, where the ships dock. If you want to use simple language, it's where the ships land. Was completely dead. It was sick, tired, and could fall at any time. An economy whose major dependency is on whatever was imported. If you have that kind of situation, it's a major disaster. So, taking on the reform process, when we reach the point of procurement for a concessionaire, we had a situation where we had a place in the procurement document. One of the key measuring points was, for someone to win a bid, was accelerated delivery of the marginal wall of the pier, to put it that way. Who is going to be who can be the fastest to deliver that kind of thing? And interestingly, you found out that there were two bidders only. One is called APM Terminals, and the other is Bolloré Africa Logistics. At that point, Bolloré was saying they will be able to rebuild the marginal wharf in 96 months, according to their technical proposal. And APM Terminals was saying they would do that in 36 months. It is clear who you're going to choose. The next technical issue that was brought up is how much are you going to pay us for using our port? So APM Terminals had in their proposal $47.96 per TEU. And let me tell you what TEU is. 20 equivalent unit. That is referring to one 20-foot container. So one 20-foot container is 1 TEU, and one 40-foot container is 2 TEU. Shall I understand that? The hell, and nobody can explain that to him. So, how much are you going to pay us in terms of royalty? While Bolloré was saying they will give us $9, APM Terminal was saying they will do $43.76. So it was almost already clear who's going to win the bid. From the day the bid opening happened, you could tell who would have won the bid. Other key considerations were the idea to be able to transition quickly, from the government control and running model to the landlord port model. To that end, we had to bring in another consultancy, MTBS, CPCS Transcom, CPCS Transcom. They came out of Canada, and they were providing NRCBS, National Port Authority, and we had to reshift them, because the transition from a government-run model to a landlord model, there has to be some kind of transition plan in place. So CPCS Transcom was helping us with that, and they did a very excellent job. One of the guys who was heading that was a man called, he was a Gambian.
Ibrahima
Jangana. Interestingly, on his way to Liberia, he died in a plane crash in Nigeria. Ibrahima headed the CPCS Transcom team, and they came up with a lot of work for us. At the end of the day, we had APM Terminals coming in. And a lot of the people complain about the concession agreement because they largely don't understand, and they don't give themselves the chance to understand it. So if you have an agreement like that, and you are the landlord, you should have specific office focused on how the agreement is implemented. For instance, every year the tariff is supposed to be reset. In the concession agreement, there is a formula for that. And this formula principally considers inflation rate in Liberia and inflation rate in the US. The world's biggest economy, the US, and one of the smallest economies, Liberia. So those two were combined to come up with the yearly tariff. The formula is there. I don't know whether they follow through with that. I don't know. Whenever the tariff is reset, we find them on the complaining end.
Let me ask you a quick question here. I mean, you said that there was a rush by the government at the time to revive the national economy. Of course, I understand we came from war. The economy was, out of whack, and it needed to be revived. And part of the concerns people have with that contract with APM is I favored APM a lot. Will you say that because of the situation where the country was at the time, that basically you are just give away a lot to APM just to revive the economy?
If you do what is called comparison orders, if you execute what is called comparison orders, compare us with other ports in the entire Africa region. You cannot easily find a port where the operator is paying the government 43.76 per TEU. You cannot find that easily.
Okay.
Okay, Amos, I got you. But a couple of things that I wanted to ask, and in hindsight, where you guys on the reform we're thinking about, one of them on the issue of that rate is a different issue because APMT makes a lot more money than our rate anyway, just from the storage issue. Remember, I raised a whole lot of question about the free days. Today, APMT make 10 times more money from storage than from the actual charges.
Absolutely, and you know, Cyrus, that a port that makes a lot of money from storage is a port that makes a lot of money from inefficiency.
I agree.
The idea is for the containers to come and go. They are not supposed to be in storage. They're supposed to move. They're supposed to keep moving.
Yeah, but what makes that possible? What makes that possible is a whole lot of other factors that create inefficiency. So that we are not efficient today is in part, it could be predicted, or else then that blame should be placed on APMT in part.
So basically, if you look at that, you see that we went another step further in creating a one-stop shop clearance for containers. One office you go in and you get it done. All right? That office, as I speak to you, is not efficient at all. Not at all. So when you have a system that is supposed to flow, if you have a system that is supposed to flow, and you have somebody somewhere along the line choking the system, it is not going to flow the way it should flow. So if you look at the agreement,
the charges, the custom duty, also were not harmonized. So this is part of the issue that is unpredictable. Sometimes the charges that come from customs, so people continue to stay in the port. But let me bring you to another issue that was very contested in the concession in the marine services awarded to APM terminal.
Marine services never awarded APM terminals in the agreement. If you read the agreement from A to Z, it is not there. So here's what happened. The NPA at the point didn't have the capacity to handle marine services. Despite us getting some tugboats and power boats from one of the Arab countries. Those boats were docked at the port of Buchanan. I went there myself and I saw them. You know, and APM Terminal's business case depends on those things, the tugboat and the power boats. So, Government Liberia was supposed to do that. It is not inside the agreement that Government Liberia, that APM Terminal should do it. So the GOL decided to give that to APM Terminals, so that when they develop the capacity to do it, APM Terminal can give it back.
When did this happen? What year did that arrangement you just talked about happen?
Immediately, 1 year after the signing of the agreement.
Which was when?
2011.
So it happened. So this arrangement, the government of Liberia was going to get ready, get the tugboat, and take over that process. But in the interim, that service was given to APM Terminal. 2011 to now, they haven't developed the capacity.
You see the question you are asking?
Yeah.
You see that question is for people that who's supposed to be in Liberia. And then we will be able to engage with APM terminal the right way. The fact here, my people, is that the NPA is not even doing what they are supposed to do. They're not following the agreement the way they should follow it. They should have a dedicated office dealing specifically with those agreements. For example, if you have up to 100,000 TEU means 100,000 24 container per annum, you are supposed now to be able to come up with a crane. You could either use a gantry crane or you use a mobile harbor crane.
Looks like you're frozen. It looked like you froze a little bit, Amos. Yeah, but
so sorry, that's the internet thing. Sorry. So basically, I was saying that at this point, we were supposed to be at 100,000 TEU. We were supposed to be having either a mobile harbor crane or a gantry crane installed at the Freeport of Monrovia. Up to present, that hasn't happened. It seems to me that Somalia is not following up the agreement. And you can't go.
Amos, not only APMT should be acting in good faith based on that.
If they are not acting in good faith and we are supposed to make them act, is it not our responsibility? If the NPA renege on her function, that's a problem. It's supposed to be from the government side. Honestly, the agreement says that, look, you can take care of marine services, but I mean, do it. And then government Liberia say, we will do it. We say, fine, do it. But when the time came to do it, we have broken down pilot boat and tugboats. That was the very reason why we brought in those pilot boats from Kuwait. It was from Kuwait. They were docked at the port of Buchanan to deal with that situation. I'm surprised of the president what has happened to it.
But let's put a lot of the blame on the current administration, but I also want to put some of the blame on the past administration, which I understand you work with, because you are telling me that in 2011 was the time this agreement was made. 2011 to 2017, when Mr. Salif left office, is about 6 years. So, and now we're learning that the Port Authority doesn't even have the capacity to do that service. You have 6 years to build the capacity. It wasn't built. There was no accountability. I agree with you that the government should be holding APM terminal accountable, but for 6 years, the administration we worked with did not do that. And now we're going to 6 years that a new administration did not do that. So why didn't that? Why we're criticizing this administration? Can we criticize that administration as well?
No, brother, I am not claiming perfection here. I didn't come to this show to claim perfection. No. You know, there was some opportunity we didn't make good use of, as said by Mr. Joseph Wakai, and that's a fact. He wasn't claiming perfection when he said that. We are not angels who made some mistakes. That's what he was trying to say. But we don't understand. We didn't understand that the way he said it. Okay. So honestly, yes, there were some issues.
I like your honesty.
What can be done? What can be done relative to those gray areas in the execution of the marriage with APMT and the port? What can be done differently now? What can be done?
Establish a dedicated office aimed at executing that agreement. All right, read the agreement like your ABC, know it from the back to the front of your hand, and develop a table of what is supposed to happen and when it's supposed to happen, by whom, on what condition. When you know those things, it's just a table you can develop. I can do that in less than 2 weeks.
But you need competent people to do that.
Absolutely, that's the problem. You know, you have a bunch of people who don't know, and Antimata posted that they don't know that they don't know. Interestingly, she was like quoting me because those are things I used to say all along. If you don't know, hey, you don't know that you don't know, my brother, your category is a very strange category to put you into. So honestly, on that question, I think the NPA need to do a lot more. Pay more attention to the concession agreement. Bring out the formula. Find for yourself the inflation rate in the US. Don't go to the internet, go to the US government. The embassy is right here. They will give it to you. You know the inflation rate in Liberia. Put it into the formula. You can be able to tell your people. Sorry, there was a glitch. You can be able to put your people in a right frame of mind going forward. I think the port is still a very major source of income for this country, and we need to give it the desired attention.
Okay. Alfonso, you can.
Field already.
Okay. Amos.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my man, we're glad that you were able to join us. You know, even though we missed the time and we're getting a lot out of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Is
I
there
was thinking about 11.
is there any other thing you'd like to share with us as we move into our closing period?
Yes. There was this thing about the dry port.
Correct. If Alfonso asks a question about it, it would be good to talk about it. Tell us your vision is on the issue of dry port. The internet island Monrovia now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's frozen.
They give you a few seconds. I thought about it. Amos has said that he went to the port authority to discuss ideas he had about dry port, and they didn't even occasion the meeting.
Oh,
They gave him, I think he said they gave him a phone number.
yeah, to call.
Yeah.
Call this number and let's have that conversation with the person who answers, if anybody does.
Yeah, our biggest challenge is the human capacity.
Yeah.
Frankly,
One of it. I think the willpower is also not there. Yeah, the will is important. Like
yeah,
those
and
people
then but look, if the policymakers truly understood the
yes,
the value of that
absolutely.
infrastructure,
Yeah,
they will first hire the right quality
people.
people,
You're right. Yeah,
and then it will be much easier. I mean, look, you see, I was just yesterday looking at the hiring of some guy to take over the airport.
mm-hmm.
Uh, the guy came out of Philadelphia. My man, I watched the confirmation hearing. My man, the guy brings nothing. He
That's
brings
a guy. That's a young man that I know. I know him.
he brings nothing to that particular position, and how is he being sent there as though they do not have an expectation that organization should be made to function efficiently?
Yeah, no, that's not their goal. That's not their expectation. They don't want it to function efficiently. If they even want it to function at all.
Yeah, look, I tell you what, we got a little bit out of Amos, man. I reach here, I like his passion.
Yeah,
he work with the put secretariat. Yeah, we look what he says. What he's saying, there are a lot of problems with that too, because what he's basically saying that they just work with what they had.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you look at Bolloré, and you look at APMT, and in their mind, APMT on the deal like were a little better. So they went for APMT without making actual practical assessment of the proposal and find whether they bring value for value.
I mean, my other question to him was going to be, why is it that it had even only two bids, two companies? Could it be that it didn't
circulate the tender very well?
They stuff very well.
Obviously, there were cases where companies have come. There was a Malaysian company called GMT, Chinese companies who came later on and said that they were not adequately informed. And there was some shenanigans with that stuff in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
If you see that the World Bank group, they chose the consultants, all within their spheres, and we can learn a thing or two from it. The point that he said about APMT or the Marine Services was not given to APMT, it was in the agreement. We just insisted that since the argument is that the port is not well sourced to do it, that means we should give a time frame within 5 years that the port should do it. And to his credit, even within the 5 years, even now, 13 or so years down the road, the port has not lifted a finger to be able to get the Marine Service in place. And we're missing on that major source of revenue. And also the ability to do marine services in the other
at the other ports. Yes,
other ports.
If you're talking, I'm not hearing you, Cyrus, except you're talking to somebody else.
Hello? Can you hear me?
A little bit, but you're still cracking. You're still crackling, but keep trying.
What's my audio for? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
You're coming in and out, Amos. You're not.
Hello? Can you hear me now, Alfonso?
Yes, I do. I hear you. I hear you, Cyrus.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry
not
about
here.
that. This
Yeah.
this remote mic ran out of power.
Oh, okay. All right.
Amos is going back. We're entertain if he can come back just a few minutes from him to close up. But what I was saying is I like to run this arrival of that first vessel in 1952 to Bafo Bay in Sino. It just speaks to what I said earlier about the topography of our coast that makes it ideal for even no dredging, no put work was done over there, but that vessel was still able to dock. So let's see if
Yeah.
we can pull that up while we try to get our man from Liberia.
Oh, he's making a comeback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, you've done pretty well. But Lola, they're still not giving you a chance now.
Yeah, no, it's not working. What's the internet company, Lone Star?
Amos, are you there? Can you hear us? Well, I don't know. We will probably let it go. Amos, we can see you, but we can't hear you. He's very passionate. I hope he wins the election.
The election and try to do what he. My other question is, I mean, situating it in the office of the president, the president
Well,
has to agree and implement it.
they gotta when they get to do the sausage, they'll probably figure that out.
Yeah.
Amos, you back? Yeah, we'll give it a try too.
Yeah,
Amos.
let's give him a few more. I have to run at
We gotta
something to
cut up
pick up my daughter.
15 minutes and then we can close up. Let's see what don't start.
So Amos, maybe you go off
Come again.
Go off video. Maybe that will help your bandwidth. Yeah. Still bad. We're not hearing you. Can you turn your video off and just use your volume?
I can hear you now. Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
You're still breaking.
Sarah, can you hear me? Got a bad connection.
Can you hear me, guy?
I hear you.
Amos?
Yeah, but I wasn't hearing Amos.
Okay, we're gonna let this go. I think we're not making progress here. We've given Amos his.
Amos is really trying hard, but it's not working.
Here we go. Can you see that screen, Afonso?
Yes, I do.
So that is that vessel leaving the Mississippi River to come to Liberia. It's a short clip. I think it's 4 or 5 minutes. So even on the American side, they have issues with port. You see that port?
Yeah.
1952.
That was in the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot had not been developed, I guess.
The whole village came over to the coast to see that ship.
To see the show.
Billy Graham.
Yeah. Wow.
Billy Graham came to pray for that ship. These guys, the Americans, up to their most prominent level, have been involved with Liberia for a long time.
For a long time. Somehow we just didn't
We haven't leveraged.
leverage that affiliation, that association. Yeah.
Yes, we didn't leverage. Imagine 1952, we are still the only African independent country except for Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having this level of interaction with American interest.
Yep. Amos is trying to come back. So.
Yeah, we'll give Amos one more little chance. Are we having a problem with both Amos and the recording?
The record, yeah. Well, yeah.
So
Maybe.
Liberian co-catching us here too? Well, I think we've had a good, fairly good discussion about the port issue. I wish we could get this thing. We'll get this thing running for us.
Amos is trying his best, but unfortunately,
we might not just get him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bang on this vessel hitting Baffle Bay. That's where we're looking at. Yeah. And how they were able to offload that vessel. That vessel is carrying yellow equipment and all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't heard until I started researching this. I haven't heard much about that concession, Baffle Bay. But I understand it's still there in Sino.
I've heard the name. I didn't even know that, about this vessel, but I've always heard the name and, about that Baffle Bay stuff.
Look, they got to the coast there. There are no ports.
There's no port, but they're able to get there, and wow, that's remarkable.
Yeah, they offloaded those stuff using slings from the ship.
Mm.
Several weeks, the party slept and ate on board.
That means a gotcha. Yep.
Look at that.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's remarkable.
And they brought kids along with them.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
At Baffle Bay in today's Sano County.
And today, unfortunately, several years later, nothing is
1952. So we're in 2023, 1952.
several years later it's gone
70,
underground.
71
Yeah,
years ago.
unfortunately, we can't even
Yeah. So
leverage those things and make any improvement. That is sad.
I mean, we don't seem to even manifest any interest in our progress
No, our people don't care.
because our resources are just sitting there dormant. Nothing being applied to it. Few white guys coming on that ship. Look what they're doing.
Yeah,
They're building stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can see they're doing welding and stuff, but yeah, well, people don't care. We don't care, especially
No,
the,
people brought in equipment and everything. They brought it by the same sling from the ship.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the equipment. Yeah, but
And
unfortunately,
these tips I recall are stored in the archive at the Rabel Soli University. Uh,
hmm
all the information about Liberia and these expeditions are there for us to understand where we've come from. I understand these guys were the one who built most of the roads in the southeast, including Greenville, Maryland, and Harper, and all that. And look at the quality of those roads even today.
even today, even
Yeah.
today, we don't care. So it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope. I mean, we've been a little casual, but also discussing
Mm.
technical issues about Liberia. We hope to have Sonny Yuma. He probably didn't make it. I think we got a little bit of Amos. We hope we had more. We'll be talking to Amos every now and then as he aspires for his representative position. He said a couple of things that were touched me
Yeah,
though. I mean,
yeah.
yes, the Man Coffee water plant is there. I mean, the Man Coffee hydro plant and then the water plant is there. So they run the
hmm
wire over the people in that concession without giving them current.
Yeah. Well, the idea is that only Monrovia should have electricity.
But let me end with this. So the U.S. government, in partnership with the Liberian government, uh, HERP project called GAIBI that's responsible for vaccinations around the world. They built a big, probably the largest warehouse we have now, medical warehouse in Caldwell. And that's where all the donation of U.S. medicines, USAID, the Global Fund, and
hmm
the UNFPA is kept and distributed to 600 plus hospitals every 3 months. But this facility was running on two huge generators and burning something like $20,000 in fuel every week.
Wow.
So we wanted to figure out you got Mount Coffee just a stone throw away. How do you get the public utility to this facility so that money to
hmm
other things? So we engaged the officials of the Ministry of Health, and they were very remote about it. That oh, it would be difficult. We talked to LEC people that didn't listen here and there. So with their permission to allow us to act, I engaged the guys at LEC, a young Liberian engineer there working on the World Bank project called Henry Kimball. And Henry Kimball said, oh, they are not aware of that kind of facility. The guy made a case to him, look, you guys here, you're selling current. You got a huge warehouse over there that could give you $78,000 a month.
Exactly.
How come you're not finding it? He said, oh, no, they didn't know. So he scheduled the next day and went along with me and two of his engineers there to see the place. And in less than 2 weeks, there's some coordination from their side and our side. They ran current to the warehouse.
To the warehouse. Yep.
So the point I'm making is these things are possible. It's
Yeah.
just that the initiatives are not thinking. They are possible.
Yeah.
So if you see Bentor, that is the capital of Monrovia County, is sitting over there, and you got current less than 5 miles down the road at Mount Coffee, and you cannot light up Bentor. Not only the administrator's office,
No.
but Bentor, and this is the home of the former president,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
whole lot of high value infrastructure there. So you got people who can pay for electric there.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but these are some of the things that we need to keep on drumming, especially as we are in this election season, that a lot of things we can do differently. So, Francois, I'm really glad that you could join me today so that we'll catch this few hours of discussion on something
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm okay. I'm off here. If you like, you can give us a parting statement.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was great. The conversation was really enlightening, from the discussion on the election to really the resources, the marine and port resources that we have, and how we can leverage them to help our people. I think that's a fascinating discussion. Yeah, and it's always good to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. Have a good rest of the day.
You do the same, brother.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was today's section of Election Central. Hope you enjoyed it, and you learned a thing or two from it. If there are concerns and issues that you have raised concerning this discussion, send us a message. You have a good Sunday and have a good week.
Hear these words and